Good viewer, you are watching Xirtus. This is because Xirtus makes you feel good, makes you feel fulfilled. You are enjoying this. You will continue to watch Xirtus for a long time to come. You want to subscribe to Xirtus, and you will. You will like and subscribe and share. You will tell your friends. Tell your friends about Xirtus. Your friends will come to like Xirtus, much as you are liking this right now, as we speak. Thank you for subscribing to Xirtus. See, that was easy.
Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Well, I'm pretty sure the Rothschilds are totally normal people. So, but they're trending on X right now. So how you guys been? What was your week like?
I feel like don't they trend on X like a lot?
I feel like their actions do, but not necessarily the family.
I used to think too that like when something's trending on X that it's like that's what's trending, but now I look and it's like every couple hours it seems to change or something. Like it'll flip. It'll be like now this is trending. Now this is trending. So I can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a way it used to feel when I'm like, oh, something's trending. Like this is really like for like days or whatever, a few days.
Yeah, but
or a day.
you gotta think how real world news reaction cycles works. Like people are trending lunch at lunchtime and breakfast at breakfast time. They're not having dessert at at the breakfast time. Maybe some people are, but there's points of the day where people get a trend going, I think.
Do you remember after 9/11 when certain colors were trending? Like it was like yellow was really popular, and then orange, and then it's kind of just went cooler a little bit, but it was like
yeah, I was wondering about that. That's the yellow Ankh that they did. Remember that thing? What was that about? It was like the yellow.
The Empire Strikes Back. I remember that at the bottom of the screen. Or no, it was America Strikes Back. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. The yellow ribbon. Like, is that a safe search? I'm gonna put that on right now before we get any further into yellow ribbons. You never know. It was. I guess it's not an Ankh, but like I just remember when people were putting these symbols on their car around 2001, 2002. And I kept thinking it was the Ankh. I guess it's a little different. I don't know. I guess it's not quite. Still, though, this yellow ribbon seems weird. I don't know what to say about the yellow ribbon. Zach, what do you think about the yellow ribbon?
Well, I was just thinking about some of the new angles of Tower 2 that seem to have been popping up. I don't know if you've been had your ear to the ground, but yeah, there's some angles that have showed up on different subsections of Reddit that, myself included, lots of people just don't seem to remember. And some of them may have been newly released. There's one that from a helicopter, but yeah, I don't remember seeing some of these shots that even say like ABC, because it was such a different time as far as what they put on their broadcast versus what ended up on whatever limited website they have or had.
Dude, somewhere I have a CD with like all kinds of like September 11th footage. I remember like September 12th or 13th. I had collected all the footage I could find on my computer and have it in DivX format still. I was burning disc just because I felt like, it looked like the kind of thing that might disappear. You might never see that footage again or be replaced. I was only in junior high though, so I had no idea like it was going to be, well, I guess Star Wars was already remastering, so it was probably kind of
all the footage that went up right away that we saw, everybody had television backgrounds, especially with Fox, and some of them like special effects and stuff,
What's up, Betty? This is Venice Beach Dub Club is making it, so it's kind of like a SYNCTANK Ultra kind of a thing. We were just talking about September 11th, and I'm actually glad you made it into that part of the conversation because didn't you like live there? Basically?
Yeah. Yeah. But what more specifically about 9/11? You just want me to launch into like a 3-hour documentary or something?
Or well, no, David, what were you? I'm sorry.
We only have 2 hours, I think. But,
Finish your thought.
What's up, everybody? Hello.
No, I was just saying.
I never met.
Hi. I know. I was just saying that I remember that scene, that all the footage that we saw it took quite a ways. So the first big documentary to come out about it was Loose Change, which has changed dramatically since the time that it came out. It's really hard to find the original version, which is also true for Who Killed the Electric Car. But I remember all those original shots that we got all came from people with like film, not just film background, because I mean they're the camera people or whatever, but a lot of them work for Fox and various news outlets. Yeah. So it's like it took a while before we started to see video that was more just from regular people, and not everyone had cell phones at that time, obviously in 2001. So,
Yeah, I remember it was like American Beauty. We had those mini DV cams and everything. I have so many of those cassette tapes, but I wasn't living in New York. So I remember just hearing it was a very Kevin Bacon moment. And I feel like Kevin Bacon, like 6 degrees of separation, what that really means is you've got about 3 degrees in before you've known somebody who is an extrovert enough that someone else knows someone 3 people in that knows that person. It's like,
dude. Again, one time I went to a hot spring down south in California, and I was hanging out with these couple guys all day, talking, blah blah, having a great time, drinking a little bit. We did like a barbecue thing. We were hanging out, and then after hanging out with them all day, I started just going off about 9/11, and I got pretty far into giving my whole my spiel at the time, and this guy was just like, I was a firefighter in New York, at the time. And he was like, if you were almost anybody else right now, I would be pissed. But I heard what you said. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It brings up too much for me. But that, it just the whole vibe shifted. And I think there's something to be said about that phenomenon. It's like if you tell somebody and they kind of have it. I mean, I just met the guy, but still, we really hit it off.
What if you were like, I was a firefighter too. Now what?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a big sacred cow, and that's such a cop out. That's like, oh, I have argument from authority privilege on this subject. So
no, he didn't do that though. He didn't go there. He just said like, you're triggering me with what you're talking about, but I heard what you said, and I'll consider it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And it's like, okay, cool. It wasn't like a fight or anything. It was just like, whoa, that was a vibe shift, and then it was like, that was his reality, I
think it sucks for a lot of people, who they're thinking like we shouldn't talk about 9/11 because think about all the people that were hurt in the circumstances. And I feel like those are the reasons. Each life is one extra or 1,000 reasons why we're supposed to.
The truth is its own virtue. You know what I mean? You don't have to explain searching for the truth. That's always virtuous de facto. My only insights from being there: 2 things. One, there was an instant reaction that you could hear from New Yorkers in Times Square. I was in Times Square watching on the big screens. I worked somewhere near there, so I saw heard the news about the first plane hitting when I got to work, and then went out to watch on the big screens in Times Square, and was there when the second plane hit and when the buildings fell, watching those big screens. And all the workers in Times Square were screaming, bomb them, turn it to a sheet of glass. So it's like, it's not like the neocons invented that groundswell of like hatred and reactionary war, adventurous war. Like that was already well seeded into the people, because I was shocked to hear so many people like, bomb them now. And I was just like, bomb who? We don't even know what's happening. Like people instantly wanted to bomb
Like
the Middle
as-
East before.
Like as it
People
was
had never
happening?
even tuned into CNN as it was happening. As the plane hit, people are screaming, "Bomb them! Nuke them all!" You know, so whoa.
What, you
holy
want to
cow.
bomb the Pentagon? It's already getting hit
Yeah,
right now,
yes,
but luckily no one's going to
exactly.
be
Yeah, like,
injured.
maybe they were
But
trying
I
to
knew
destroy
they were
all the-
talking about too, because it had been so well ingrained through constant propaganda that our enemy is the Middle East, you know, way before 24 and all that, you know, seasons of 24. My only other special insight is that the shock troops, the stormtroopers, came out of nowhere from underground, just running up from the subways that were closed. All of a sudden, like hundreds of thousands of just, you never seen these people in New York before. It's like they're NYPD allegedly with no markings, dressed like, you know, space soldiers, you know, in all black shiny armor with like face shields and you know, heavy, I don't know, AR-15s or whatever, you know, just something you never seen in New York before, and just like ubiquitous all over the place. And I was just like, who are these? Like NYPD? Like you know, I've never heard any NYPD talking about, oh yeah, by the way, like now we're also like stormtroopers and have like battle armor and stuff. Like no one had ever heard of it, and no one really cared about it that day because so much else was going on. But I was kind of like, as an anti-authoritarian, reflexively, I was like, who are these NYPD like shock troopers, and where did all this gear come from? Like we've never seen this or been told about it, you know. That's my only insight from being there.
Stoffel.
You know what else was shocking was all the footage from people from that day on the scene who said, we saw the plane and it did not have windows. It was a black plane. It looked like a military plane. The words, "it looked like a military plane," came from so many people. And it's weird because you'll hear other people saying something completely different, but it was just, there was a number of people on the scene that said that. I was like, wow, that's really crazy.
I feel like the farthest from the authority on this one, because I didn't even know 9/11 happened for like 2 or 3 weeks until after the fact. Because I was in I was in the military. I was in boot camp, and they didn't want us to be distracted from our training. We knew something weird had happened, but they kept it a great secret. And the only reason that I even found out about it within 3 weeks is because somebody's parents were like slipped in like a newspaper article, and it was like, "Are you okay?" And I guess it got through the dude that was supposed to read everything, or maybe they let it through, because it was weird, man. And then the TI brought us into a big room, and he was like, "Here's the thing, you know, like New York has been hit, and the towers fell, and these planes." And it was just so surreal. It's like, okay, like, can we get food now? Like, is it time to go to sleep yet? Like, it was the, like, not even the 100th thing on our list at that point, because we were deep in the middle of training, you know. But I remember distinctly the moment that it had to have happened. They had all of the trainees go outside with flashlights and hold the flashlights up, and we were instructed to yell, "Halt, who goes there?" at anyone that we saw that looked like a stranger. So that's what we did for the next few weeks.
I've had thousands of conversations with people about 9/11, and you're the first person in my life that I've ever heard say that you didn't hear about it at the time like that. That's
I feel like I missed out, bro. Because I remember my parents.
What if you knew someone that worked in Windows on the World, and like your mom worked there as a waitress and was dead, and they don't tell you for 2 weeks? I mean, that's crazy.
Honestly, that really would have been the scenario too, because they weren't telling anyone, and that would have let the whole thing out of the bag. But I feel like I missed out on this huge programming, like, trauma event that everyone else got to participate in. Kind of like I missed the movie that I'll never get to watch. And at the same time, I remember my parents talking about how everyone knew where they were at. Like, where were you at when you heard JFK got shot? And like, I remember where I was at, but like, it was only because I knew it was weird that they had me go and stand out with a flashlight. But I didn't get to participate.
That is so weird. There are so many weird ritualistic things.
Ritual.
There were so many weird ritualistic things that happened that day. What they never showed on the news, surprisingly, like any helicopter shots or anything, was they made everyone walk out of Manhattan. They vacated the entire island of Manhattan. It's like millions of however many people are there on a work day in the daytime. I would guess like 9, 10, 12 million people, maybe 10 million people at that time. They made everyone walk out, you know, across the Brooklyn Bridge or north. So it's like, you know, or out of Midtown Manhattan. Sorry, everything from the financial district to above Midtown. I was in Midtown, so I don't know how far up they made you leave to. I walked up to 88th Street, which is where I was staying at. But they made everyone walk on the West Side Highway. So the West Side Highway was closed, the famous highway, and it was just like millions of people like being marched, like frog marched basically by like gunmen, you know? So it's like just a crazy scene. And then I got home and I was watching CNN and I was like kind of sadistically almost waiting to see more planes hit. And I was like, what am I going to do? Just sit here all day and wait for planes to hit stuff? So instead I walked to Central Park and I laid down. And I was the only person in Central Park, like vanilla sky. And there was F-14 Tomcats going over my head. And I was like, this is probably pretty weird day. It's probably going to be a pretty famous day.
I remember, I mean, I think I've told this story before, but it's so weird to me. Like, so I was going to a Christian school, and the beginning of my day, I was listening to like an alarm clock radio, and it turned on a Christian radio station, and the song was from this band Skillet, and I liked Skillet, and they had this new song that was called Alien Youth, and it started out with this astronaut kind of voice, and it says, "It's been confirmed that the aliens have landed." And then he goes like, and now you see the music video, but I didn't have the music video at the time to know how weird the music video was on top of it all. And that this was a branded album and all these things that were coming out around September 11th. And one of the things that was, just you wake up to, it's been confirmed that the aliens have landed. It's already a weird, it started my day weird before I knew what was going on. And then the video is just like, come on, freaks, let's ride. Or the song is Get On Freaks, Let's Ride, Chosen Generation. And then like we're taking over the world with the alien youth. And then he's wearing an army shirt, right? And there's all these weird symbols that go on in the background. They got the age of Pisces symbol.
That's a strange sync.
And yeah, like there's another part like later on, because they got the matrix, the Ohm sign up here. You see that Ohm sign with the Pisces symbol for like singularity, oneness, and these like screens in the background, like they're becoming the matrix. And they're at one point you literally see just their eye. I can't find it now, but there's a scene where it's just their eyes on these talk screens, which was very like Illuminati at the time. It's like, that's a weird video, but kind of cool song. But like alien youth, like, am I the alien youth? I guess, I guess they're saying I am this thing. But then you get to school, and then the school is just like freaking out. And it was just every adult was in a perfect panic and not sure what to say. And especially because they're like, these people already like pride themselves on code filtering with children, or with, just pretending to have a super ego and not to talk directly with children about what's really going on. So they're just trying to hide what's going on. So afterwards, my dad picks us up and we go to Marianne's ice cream shop, which is where Hitchcock used to like, I find this out later. Hitchcock lived in Santa Cruz. He used to like to eat ice cream at the Marianne's ice cream shop. And there's like 50 people there, and we're all around this television set like it's 1958 or something, or watching Sputnik. And I just like, I feel like the simulation, I don't know, man, like sometimes it does the weirdest things, That was a weird day.
Word.
Zach, you got any September 11th stories?
Well, I was in high school, and I remember I used to listen to Coast to Coast with Art Bell and then George Nuri every night. And so I'd have just kind of the radio on. And so I was kind of in a half sleep, and just hearing, it was all so real. And I thought I was dreaming for some time. But yeah, then I think I had, I did children's theater, and we had a performance that day that we were going to go to, but then it obviously was canceled, and we all just kind of watched it on TV and then went home. But it was, it was definitely weird. And at first no one really knew who it was. I don't know. It was a lot of the activist circles that I was privy to at the time, doing Food Not Bombs, and there was like a strange trepidatious excitement almost.
Yeah.
Well, as a widow's son.
Yes.
I'm just saying, as a widow's son, though, it probably really hit you kind of hard.
It did, yeah. and even more so as a traveling man.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it messed up.
Well, like, you got to remember how much the world was different, and it's so. I was in Croatia for a year, or 7 months or something like that, up until September 7th or something like that. So I also flew home right before September 11th, and so not only did I see the world before September 11th, which was a freer world, I'll say it like that, but also I didn't just see America. Like, Croatia was like America in the 70s at that time, because it was in between being it was no longer Soviet, the mafia was losing control, European Union hadn't happened yet, so it was
there
just
a lot
like
of cigarette smoking.
It was the wild and crazy time. Yeah, anyone any age could do anything as long as no one else wanted you killed for it. It was just one of those beautiful things, you know. But you get back to America and things, the movies, the music, right? You had like Marilyn Manson, Antichrist Superstar. You had all these kinds of American Psycho, American Beauty, American this and that. Like it was like all about the liberty and the craziness, and it's worth the cost of people dying for freedom. Like that was kind of the vibe. And then September 11th hit, and it was just, we all kind of know September 11th came with the Patriot Act. It came with security over privacy, over liberty. You know, those airport security people. I still have a backache, you know. But the POD album, because we brought this up at some point, like so they're doing it with the army shirt and the car crashes and everything, and it's released on September 11th, 2001. All the music that was released on September 11th, 2001, including Silver Side Up by Nickelback. Yeah, I'm not kidding. This is clearly
why are they leaving out, like, I mean, I'm not seeing Jay-Z's The Blueprint. That was released September 11th, 2001. It just doesn't show it.
Really? They didn't put that there? That's horrifying. They should.
Yeah. What's that about? I mean, he likes to brag about it.
Yeah,
Like
they can't show the real blueprint, you know.
Yeah, and then you've got all the Limp Bizkit shooting their music video on the Twin Towers before, like a week before September 11th, right?
That Far Side album cover?
Yoko Ono released Blueprint for a Sunrise on 11/9/2001. So Jay-Z did the Blueprint. She did Blueprint for a Sunrise 11/9/9/11. Pretty weird.
Whoa.
It seems like they would hang out too. Honestly, they seem like they would be friends.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, they're both New Yorkers, right?
I wasn't even being sarcastic. I mean, he's like friends with Maria
totally.
Abramovich and all these kinds of weird art witches. So
sure.
I'll go out on a limb real quick. I just want to say that 9/11 was not worth it for the Yoko Ono album. Maybe for the rest of the freedoms, but that one particular one, I don't think I would have traded.
Bruh, anything Yoko Ono does to dismantle the Beatles and the Tavistock mind control experiments is fine by me.
Whatever. I used to blame her for that along
I never
with
would.
everybody, but no, actually, Yoko Ono, she sounds like ayahuasca feels. I actually will defend Yoko Ono. I think she's great.
Yeah.
I used to not care for her, but then I went a little bit deeper looking at her catalog, and I gotta say, some of it's actually pretty good.
I still just think she's working for Tavistock, not against.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could be a thing.
She could be in the same way that like Timothy Leary worked for the CIA. Like, did he he did, but did he really?
Yeah, exactly. To work for. It's like he was approached.
Yeah, okay. Right. He was like he yeah, right. He saw it as an opportunity.
Well, the gematria for the Rothschilds is fun. What about this cool meme that our good, amazing friend Raggedy Fan 74. So Dr. Whoa. I mean, this is like so real. I feel so good about this. It's just everything I believe in, really. And look how much
just
work
noticed
there
the
is.
box sock at the
the BBC
SYNCTANK. Warning contains conjecture. This is
allegedly.
not. I can't wait. I was literally yesterday looking at buying a Blu-ray burner because I was like, well, they're $30. So this could be a thing. We could put every episode of Dr. Whoa on Blu-ray and DVD. That could happen.
Let's at least start with one episode. Let's start with
look at us. Look at you. Look amazing, David. You look like you like that foggy northern sea exposure.
The sea mist, the sea air is like clinging to your nose. It's
I would watch this.
I would totally watch this. Look at you.
Oh, man.
I did wear this hat on your behalf, David.
This should be a t-shirt.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, it's quality. Yeah,
solid.
People are gonna. Illuminati confirmed.
Illuminati confirmed.
What team is that?
Oh, there's a pin.
Is that football or baseball?
I thought that was the volleyball. Isn't that Georgia volleyball? Georgia State. Can you imagine if Zach was wearing volleyball shorts with that hat? Yeah, the pin in the it's like a fractal. We could talk about Freemasonry. I have some thoughts on Freemasonry.
I sent the calendar. I think a Freemasonic volleyball calendar would do well.
I'm not done plugging. Let me do one more. So I just wanted to show this off again. So I've been doing a lot of AI artwork, and then I go online and I say to myself, I need to get myself some models. I gotta get some Lauras that are already made. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I see like a recommendation. It's like, you would probably like this model. I don't think was it Glenn Maxwell? Was it Alex Jones? It might have been the Alex Jones XL. That's what I think it was. No. You posted about this one, but I've caught another one of yours in the wild. I can't remember. Was it Mary Louise Parker? The point is, if you look up Paranoid American is making LoRa models. So if you're into AI and you want to make your own AI using Paranoid American's models, you can do it. You got to go to civitai.com and you search for Paranoid American / Paranoid American. Here, look at this. Most popular models, 406 downloads, 702 downloads, 608. Thousands of people are memeing with AI art based on LoRa models trained by Paranoid American. This is great.
Wow.
So get yourself owl porn.
Owl porn. Yeah.
It means more than it sounds like it does. Okay.
I sent you one, Andreas, which I'm being brought here today by Mima's Donkey Stew. I came across this advertisement in an old 1920s Life magazine.
I'm pulling it up. Here we go. Mima's Donkey Stew. There you go.
Those
Look at
eyeballs.
That. It's so Discordian. It's perfect.
Yeah. I've actually been. I use Wombo, of all things. I somehow accidentally ended up. I forgot that I'd subscribed and like paid the $80 for the year, but it's been the best $80.
I don't even know what Wombo is. That's awesome. There's a whole. There's so many things.
Another app. But you can choose the size, format, and it'll do some weird wonky stuff. So this one actually combined like 3 or 4 iterations that had a similar layout. And so
I really like.
You're telling me this isn't a real advertisement? It's not a real stew?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he would make you Donkey Stew.
It is now.
That's totally had me.
Yeah.
I feel like Comfy AI is pretty easy to set up now. So anybody who's looking at it, get yourself Comfy AI. You just download it. You run a Python script, which sounds more complicated than it is because like they just tell you to copy and paste. Sure. But that's really good. And the other one is Automatic 1111.
I also recommend there's one called Focus, and it's got 3 O's in it. FOOOCUS, and it basically is just like Automatic 1111, but it removes like the hundreds and hundreds of options and just gives you like one nice interface that you can kind of expand on. And you can graduate from, my opinion, you would graduate from this to Automatic 1111 or Comfy UI.
Okay.
This one, you just type in it and it makes it look good every time.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, if you're looking for a really simple, easy to use, and you just want to like play around with AI art all the time, then go get yourself Focus. I like it. That sounds cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Where's my
Can I ask you a question? Was that AI art, the Melmoth suit?
Yeah.
So it can write text now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I find Mid Journey and the Bing image creator does better using the text within it, but I had to get a lot of different iterations on.
Do they know what was the problem? Like what was causing, because that might be interesting to know what caused that difficulty, because also in dreams, you can't read or write text. I just wonder if there's any.
With the way the neural network, the way the large language model pulls things, I had to include specific language to further my chances, and using all caps versus the description not in.
So is it just a different in the super prompts, or they actually updated these programs so they do better with text?
Well, there's a couple. There's 2 major improvements. One of them is ControlNet, and you can use something called ControlNet with a specially trained model called QR Code Monster, which was originally made for QR codes, but it works for anything. That's where you get like a lot of the memes that have like a popular face translated into an image, but also works perfectly for text. And then there's also almost like this tile-based sampler that'll go through, and there's a Comfy UI workflow where you basically tell it, here's the phrase that I want, and then here's the number of characters in the phrase, and it'll go through like block by block and compare like each letter with what it's generating as it goes through, so that you get like almost like, that's how that owl porn one that Andreas pulled up.
Yeah.
That one was specifically written out.
Don't
to say
blame
that.
me for that. You're the one who.
But does anybody know specifically why that was one of the more difficult things? Like I know it's having problem with digits, like fingers, and having problem with text. Did anyone
I
find
believe
out
it
what
just wasn't specifically trained on it. And the
Oh.
two solutions that I just mentioned, they actually, it's not like you would just type in a word. Like after you type in the word, as it's going through and checking itself to see like, hey, am I doing a good job? Am I doing a good job? Every one of those iterations, it'll go through and it'll process it through. So like one of them is the ControlNet that we were just looking at, QR code, and then the other one just use those tile based. So it'll like check each individual block and say, does this one look like an A? Does that one look like an O? And
so we
iterate
don't learn
through.
anything
So
that can be extrapolated and applied to the human.
But I know what you're getting at, because like if you look down and look up in a dream, for example, like the text will change or it'll kind of like move itself around. You can still do that if you just train on pure text and then have it regenerate. It'll basically just give you text looking shapes that kind of look like dream world type text.
Right.
Yeah.
But these are
a lot of
these
the
are things that
text
are
in
like trying to solve that.
But you can solve that a lot of ways. Like, so one thing is like it looks for now like swirly text, and then it replaces that text with real true text to train. Like it can know to train to look in this particular place. I want to have text, and that's why ControlNets are really interesting. But also model training is changing because now they're training on video, and so you can look at Google's Project Imagine, which is I'm pretty excited about it because what it does is is this the right one? Imagine video. Sorry. Imagine video is crazy because it's able to really follow the movement of. It has to load something. Here's like plants growing, right? This is all AI generated because it's learning from plants. Imaging.
Hey, are the new images of 9/11 and the new video footage of 9/11, is how we can know
How do we know
something's AI, right? Because we could figure that out, right, guys? Like,
For-
you know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We're
right.
like about-
I'm sure we could. Yeah, the hands would look different.
For
Well,
about like
but
a
this
year,
is
maybe.
this is important because it's the connection between 9/11 and AI. What is that connection? I think part of it is that
Yeah.
that was kind of like when 9/11 happened at that time at the turn of the century. That was like kind of the crescendo of where you could point to something, some footage you saw, because now people will say, they're like, oh, I saw so and so said this, and you're like, what, did he really say that, or was that AI? Like it's a question that didn't really exist in the same way up to that point. So it's kind of like that feels to me like a significant precipice of what is
Right,
the
yeah,
distinction between this age and the age that we came from, and it's that this age you don't know exactly what it is that you have to question more.
You know why?
And
It's because all
difficult.
the boomers lived through the Kennedy assassination, but that was one thing. That was just one thing that stood out. But then those same boomers lived through 9/11, and then now we've got like 3 generations alive at the same time that are that have in their zeitgeist JFK and 9/11. That it's like there's gonna be a third thing. You know what I mean? And it's like the commonality.
Totally.
Of these things.
Everything's
People
enriched
generally
becomes
don't
true.
believe them, and then you start paying more attention to how the world changes around you, and you're like, who voted for eternal molestation at the airport? Like, who voted for full body x-rays? Aren't those dangerous? Like, you just start to connect everything. So yeah, I think we could lose this momentum we have in a generation or two if they start changing history or just, delete the internet.
To be
or something
fair,
like
when they pitched that like a full pat down at the airport, it sounded way more fun than it ended up being. So I
I don't know. I
regret the
disagree.
Well, my
Fun
point
fact,
is we've got
I've never gotten a X-ray in an airport.
Oh wow!
Have you got the
flown
puff
so many.
machine? The puff machine.
I wear shorty shorts and bright colored shirts and everything. I'm like, all right.
Wait,
who's
every
ready?
airport I go to is mandatory. Everyone goes
No.
through them.
No, they're not. You just have to say mail opt out, mail opt out.
Okay.
You yell it like that, and you
Yeah.
do it twice, and then
Do you have
that
to
way
get
they're
there
like,
very
You
early?
got
Like,
it.
do they make you miss your flight or something? Or doesn't it take
I always
like,
go.
way
I'm
longer?
always there an hour early.
They put on
because they-
special gloves, and then they
No.
the way they go on the inside.
I want to start doing that, but I'm never there in time. I just don't fly anymore. I stopped flying.
I go an
unless it was,
hour.
like,
I go an
emergency
hour
after
early
9/11.
because like I just always like to go an hour early anyway to the airport for no good reason because I get like kind of stressed about airports for no reason at all. But then I get into the airport and I'm like I like being in an airport going around. It's like an international city, so it's whatever. But you get in, and it's usually like it takes me like 15 minutes or less to do the pat down because you're standing there and people are seeing you. They're like going through. They're like, oh, you? I'm like, no, I'm not going through the machine. I'm actually in a mail opt out. And you're like, oh, he's so loud to all the other people. They're gonna get the point pretty soon that they don't have to do it. And so since nobody knows that it's all optional and that you're
Right.
just voluntarily complying.
Yeah.
And then they think, okay, you're not going to want a pat down. Like, I don't care. You want to touch me? You don't want to touch me. That's the irony of it. Like, they're like, it's this
Right.
poor guy. And I feel so bad that I apologize every time. I'm like, I'm sorry. I know this is annoying. I know I use a cell phone. I know this is ridiculous. Never
Right.
done. I just, and they're just, no, it's cool, man. And like every single time they're like, no, man, it's cool. And they're always awesome to you because it's the guy who's gotten the worst brunt of the security job. It's the guy at the lowest end of the totem pole that they make go do it. And so that's the guy that you want to meet and be connected with because he's a nice guy. I don't know. I feel like, so yeah, never get that X-ray. Sorry.
I want to speak to something that was said concerning when you talked about JFK, because like I really feel like JFK, how you felt about that in particular. No, you can talk about dead Kennedys in general, but how much you questioned JFK probably became the gauge, if you're an older person, for how you reacted to 9/11 in terms of the conspiracy angles.
Right.
So
Proximity.
people who really right, and so then you flash forward 20 years from that, and I would say that 9/11 became the gauge for how you responded to that over that whole interval, like depending on how much you question that, how much you seriously question that, became the gauge for how much you question COVID-19 hysteria. And so
and by the time we get to
like
COVID-19, all the impressive intellectuals are looking for the people who are calling this out at this point. The people who have lived through three of these, JFK, 9/11, and then the pandemic. The people who lived through all three of those, they're looking to their peers who are like, I'm going to say the obvious thing about this, and the people who won't say the obvious thing about it are kind of like not really in where the intellectual spotlight has moved.
Right. And what you were talking about earlier is the same principle applies when you're like the people who are questioning 9/11. How many of the 9/11 truth movement were people who were related to victims? Like it was astounding how many people's families and anybody who had a direct connection were largely the people who were questioning it. And so at the same time, you could say something like with 9/11, you're like, obviously these buildings collapsed, these people died, it's a great tragedy. Now the response around it was where the manipulations really became even more pronounced. And so it's the same thing was true for COVID. It's like, okay, if you're arguing to me that, okay, you got proof, there's a pandemic, okay, I can accept your arguments there, but the response was the thing that got connected to that. So it's like, if you had a problem with the response, it was as though you were denying the thing altogether. And so we've come to a place where when we talk about false flags in general, we treat it that if you say false flag, you're like saying hoax, like that they're like the same thing. But that's not often the case. And in fact, I would say it wasn't until Sandy Hook that became kind of like the normalized take on what false flag meant when you heard it. False flag just means that what you're saying is
it's the wrong flag. It could be, the Russian flag when it's the Americans acting or whatever.
Yeah. It became this thing of like a denial of reality altogether. And it's like, whoa. Let's.
Although I like there's a lot of nihilists now. They're kind of the postmodernist nihilists who are just like,
that's what we got to beware of is nihilism,
because
we've got so much momentum right now for the reasons we were just talking about. And the threat of nihilism is here's what we've done, which is appropriate, is we've gone on a truth elimination diet. We found out that everything central to our understanding and well-being is, lies for the most part. So we throw that away, and then it becomes anybody you see who's famous, you're like, are they Tavistock or not? Are they CIA?
Right.
So it's like an elimination diet. We took out all foods except for water, and we're just eating meat and water like Jordan Peterson. But it's okay to add some stuff back in because not everything is a conspiracy. Not everything is a lie. So it's like the threat of nihilism is we become malnourished. We accept no information as truth.
Yeah.
So we need to start welcoming things back into our diet that we don't need to castigate everything as programming or
this is exactly what the Soviets did with the bourgeoisie. They're like, let's burn down the palaces and melt down the gold. And eventually they're like, well, wait a second. Don't we want to keep some of the parts? No. Only that's too good. Right? Okay. Don't read books either. Yeah, there was I've been looking at these comments, and one of the things when you talk about this stuff is they're like, who did it? And so everyone's throwing up everybody. I haven't seen anyone blame the French Canadians yet, which I think is racist. So you should probably be more
capable.
See, that's what I'm saying. There should be some I just want to hear more. Like if I'm a little Wallonophobic. If it was the Belgian Dutch, maybe I would believe you. But the French Dutch, they could do anything. Anyway,
can we talk about the trend of people on TikTok, like younger Americans, like reading or like listening to, or I guess it's the supposed letter from Osama.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That
I brought
like,
this
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned this I did an interview with Giannotti from the United States Transhumanist Party, and I brought it up. I was like, this is what happens when you
That
don't
sounds
let
lit.
kids read anything. If you
But,
don't
like,
read, if you don't let kids read something,
that
then
poor
eventually they
Osama
read it and
was
they're like,
so
oh wow.
right.
I see that's like but to
Like
laugh at them
he was
is to laugh at them is to laugh at myself reading the Soviet Constitution at 13 years old, you know, because I read the Soviet Constitution right before I read Animal Farm in 1984. So I was thinking, I'm thinking, wow, the Soviet Constitution is amazing. It guarantees all of these amazing rights, but they don't actually enforce the guarantee of those rights. And if you can't be a belligerent claimant to demand your sovereignty, that there's a problem of negative governance, right? So the same thing can be applied, you know, the other direction with Osama bin Laden. Like he probably also either had really good earnest things to say, but regardless, it should be that a cultish personality figure has charismatic words. So it doesn't really matter whether it's true or false, because we know he is supposed to be hypnotic if he's able to.
It's the 85-15 thing, you know. As far as the
a little bit of truth
goes.
is good in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I really love how they snuck in all those conspiracy books and documentaries into like the Osama bin Laden library.
Yeah.
Whenever it's called.
I just want to say, I just realized that Zach was on point that whole time. I was like, why is Zach diverting the conversation to Osama bin Laden when we're talking about who did 9/11? I really.
Oh yeah, and you want to talk about AI too? You remember they used that photo from like somebody got hit by a train?
Yeah, I remember
like,
that. Yeah,
in the UK,
like he's been
like
dead
not
this
long
whole
before,
time.
like a month before or something. They took that photo and they spliced it with this like a standard picture of Osama bin Laden. They put it on the papers. They put it all over the news. It was on.
He was the Terminator this whole time.
Oh my God. And then that was the thing, is that so Bill Cooper kind of called it, right? Bill Cooper predicted whatever. You can say whatever criticisms you want about Bill Cooper, but he did call it. But it was Rush Limbaugh. I think I've talked about this before, but I don't care. It was Rush Limbaugh when he had a television show where he showed footage of Osama bin Laden being interviewed, which is also, by the way, kind of relevant to what's happening right now with Tucker Carlson and maybe slightly. But he showed this footage and he was like, I remember Rush Limbaugh being like, wait a minute, you got the CIA and the FBI are looking for this guy. He's certainly hiding in caves and stuff. This is before 9/11, quite a ways before. And he was like, there he is. Grab him. He's right there. He's supposed to be. And it was like, well, the news can get him, but the military can't. Wes is more sophisticated about the news. And yeah, and then flash forward.
There it is. There's the picture.
I've been looking so hard. I was like, remember when it was like, which Sesame Street character did Al Qaeda print with Osama bin Laden? That was the long Jeopardy round for me, but it was Bert. And so
is that implying he's Ernie?
I really have to wonder.
He was Ernie this whole time.
True, it did happen. Here's the picture of him with Bert behind him. Straight up. I remember when this happened. The world is so interesting. All right, so some of the people in the audience were talking about Illuminati, Freemasonry. I think we can kind of talk about that for a second. So you got your hat, and also Thomas is adorable. I think, every time. Look, I was gonna come to bat for him, but now, no. Here's the deal: when you look into Freemasonry, because everyone's like, "Oh, the Freemasons." Like, if you again with the Constitution of the Soviet Union, if you read the rules and the principles of Freemasonry, it's like we should live in a very interesting, awesome country if it was a Freemasonic country. There should be super equality. There should be merit-based respect for each other. You see a person, you respect them for what they do. You've got Black Prince Hall. Racism should be obliterated by now. If this was a very Masonic country, shouldn't racism have gone away?
Because you're not, even if you're in a Prince Hall Freemason lodge, there's some states where you can't freely go into a non-Prince Hall Freemason lodge because of the segregation echoes.
So what is that from? Is it from something other than? It seems like that has to be from, which is weird because Andrew Jackson, Masonic, Jacksonian Democrat, KKK, super racist.
But
what
you
is the
could
deal
not
with that?
be in the Freemasons for the longest time unless you were white. I mean, or basically if you weren't Black. Then you
it's the Moorish sciences, so it's like your Eminem, or what's that weirder movie with the kid? What's the one where he's trying to be a rap star? I'm sorry.
Oh God!
Malibu's Most Wanted.
Your Mason's Most Wanted.
That's basic. You're basically, is that what it is? Because you're studying African sciences, Moroccan, Moorish sciences, and everything, but you're not allowed to be black. What is this?
No. It's the other way around. You can so white people are allowed into to Prince Hall Freemasonry, just like the Blink 182 dude and a few other people that I know. But you can't be black and join the White Lodge, or at least you couldn't until very recently. Now I think you can, but if you're already Prince Hall, there's just red tape. Like, I mean. Along with all of these rules and merit and standards comes all sorts of red tape.
Hey, Thomas, are they letting in trans men into the Eastern Star, the Order of the Eastern Star?
What I've heard so far is
it's called the OTS.
Trans women. I'm sorry, I got them mixed up.
It depends on if you join and then transition, you're golden. But if you transition first and then try to join, you might have some issues.
Oh, fascinating. You know what? There's some big variables here in this discussion when we talk about Freemasonry. I'd highly recommend a book. Oh, who's the author? Zach might know. There's a SYNCTANK Press book published by SYNCTANK Press called The Secret War Within Freemasonry.
Yeah,
and it's basically
so
showing
I've been in contact with Frater X. He has a new book out, and they're like,
why isn't it on this page? I don't see it on the page.
Sure.
Is there a reason why it got removed? I don't know. That's weird. But
yeah,
there's other books
Freemason scrub it.
No, there's other books that we've published that aren't on that page either right
Amazon,
now.
And he's got a new book that just came out too. That's interesting. The most interesting thing that I read recently, as far as like having to do with direct charters on Freemasonry, was that they put back in the usage of the Chamber of Reflections as a part of the whole degree process, which I even though I'm not a Mason myself, I seem to know a lot about this more than some Masons.
But you don't need to be a Mason when you're a widow's son.
I thought you were a porchman.
I am a widow's son.
Wow.
And a traveling man. That's true.
Porch Mormon.
That's usually what I say. But yeah, with the Chamber of Reflections, it's can you speak to that, Thomas?
What exactly? What part of it?
Well, it used to be, I think in the last 50 years, it wasn't necessarily included in the charter. Like they were in some of the rituals, the hoodwinking and some of the different, especially like before you go through the process, that Chamber of Reflections is where you, there's some specific things in each one, like there'll be like a skull and crossbones, and it's like there's specific Masonic furniture that is present in the room, and that's not necessarily in the charter, but to my understanding, that's been put back in all lodges. They're supposed to have a Chamber of Reflections, and I don't think that was necessary.
Is that where they spank the initiates? Is that the spanking room?
No, not in the Chamber of Reflection.
That's a different room.
That's the Chamber of Spanking.
On the exact Chamber of Reflection, but what you're talking about is also just kind of how almost like states' rights exist, right? So each individual lodge almost has some degree of states' rights where they can interpret things in different ways. Right. And there's some entire regions that do things completely differently, and then elsewhere,
and then you have the York
entire
right,
states that do it
Scottish
differently.
Right, which is
and well, yeah. So and even within the Scottish Rite, there is the northern jurisdiction and the southern jurisdiction that have their own deviations, and then you've got just the standard Blue Lodge degrees. You've got York Rite, and then you've got all the little ancillaries, but just being in one of these different rites or in a certain degree, it's like the degree plus the region plus the individual lodge that you're in, because they all have their own unique spin on things. Like, for example, we've Andreas has brought it up before, but there's actually a like Flintstones degree at a very specific lodge that's part of like
the Order of the Water Buffalo.
Yeah. There's a Water Buffalo degree, and I think it's in like some specific York Rite Lodge in Ohio or something. Is
there a Sons of the Desert degree for Laurel and Hardy too?
I don't know. It's a good question. I haven't looked into that one.
That's a morgue. That's the Rosicrucians actually have something like that.
You get tapped for that if your eyes are just a little too bloodshot.
But the point being is that there's also trends that go throughout Freemasonry. This is like a really deep topic, but this is where the Bavarian Illuminati got most of their Freemasonic ranks, because back in the day, in the 18th century, there was this lodge of strict observance, and they essentially were allowing people, all the Masons were claiming lineage to the Knights Templar. And then sometime right around the birth of the Bavarian Illuminati, like the late 1700s, the Strict Observance Lodge says no more Knights Templar. Like, we're not related to them. We can't trace our lineage to them. Stop making the claims. And there's all these people that were like, what are you talking about? It's my favorite degree. Like, I've got the sword. I've got the shield. Like, I invested a lot into LARPing as a Knights Templar. And now you're telling me that we're not even allowed to mention it anymore. And the Bavarian Illuminati swooped in and they basically said, like, hey, do you have a badass sword? Do you have a cool shield and you want to keep LARPing? Well, you can join us. Like, we're still doing the Knights Templar stuff and more. In fact, we've got so much cool stuff that like those stingy old Freemasons won't let you have. And they just started like, you know, basically siphoning Freemasons at an incredible rate. And then they would go back into the lodge and kind of take over it. But that exact same thing happens constantly, even in this country, where like something will get popular and they all have to kind of jump on board or else lose their peoples. And at this point, we're like, they're hemorrhaging Freemasons. Like, if you look at the chart of the US population versus the chart of Freemasons in the US, they're almost like inverted. You would expect it to really follow, but it's taken like a nosedive as the population skyrockets.
Oh, interesting. Well, not as many people are able to keep a secret anymore. You know, that's just one of the things that comes with technology too, I guess, you know.
Well, again, we no longer
got
a merit-based society, though. Like meritocracy has been looked down upon ever since they got rid of the GitHub. I think that was the day. That was the day that Freemasonry died, was when GitHub CEO came in and they got rid of this carpet that said like meritocracy over all or something.
Dude,
Microsoft bought GitHub. To be fair to GitHub, it was Microsoft's fault. But there was wait, hold on. There's a thought there. Freemasonry, it's gone. Keep going.
Like real quick, the way that I see Freemasonry now, and it evolves, but it's like a seed bank for ideas. That's kind of how I look at it now. Like, so you're not allowed in the same way that no one's allowed to just go into a seed bank and just like piss all over all the supply.
So secret and mystery.
Well, someone is.
The difference between secret and mystery and this idea of meritocracy. So that's the thing that bothers me about people saying that we live under this Masonic conspiracy, is I feel like if we really did, but this is like saying that socialism has never been tried before. Freemasonry has never been tried before. That's how I'm starting to feel about this idea.
No true Freemason argument.
and this idea of the secret, like the secrets are secrets. In my opinion, secrets are stupid. And here's why. I don't believe in secrets really. There are people that are ignorant. There are people that are arrogant. There are really only mysteries. Right. And so this idea of a secret is trying to take God's law in the sense of physics, like the speed of light is like a law of nature. You know, these are things that can't be broken, right? And saying you're not allowed to break it. Like, you're not allowed to break the speed of light. Well, that's a weird way to talk to me. But if you say like the speed of light cannot be broken, you know, it's like this it's not simple to break this ring. That makes more sense about a secret. It's like, this is something that you cannot understand. One cannot understand this, so it's a mystery, right? And unless you're talking about my brothers and their lodge.
On that point, I think when you're searching for light, right, or you're looking for light, you don't even think of them as secrets so much as maybe like spoilers. Like, you don't want to ruin this degree and this like ascension of the mind process for somebody else. It's not so much more that it's like the secretive thing. It's like, no, you don't want to spoil this like birthright.
That's a great way to look at it. It's like, think of the secret and one of many definitions as like, spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen The Sixth Sense, 3, 2, 1. But it would be like going out in the middle of Sixth Sense and just saying, you know, he's dead already. The whole movie, he's dead already. Like, it's not a secret, but if it is, it like makes it more enjoyable, more impactful.
Yeah, I have an idea for a sequel to Sixth Sense and a sequel to Watermelon Man at the same time. And it's about they don't know he's black. All right, you get the idea. How about Masons at Sight? Masons at Sight are interesting. This idea that you could become a Mason at Sight, an initiation to Freemasonry raised to the degree of Master Mason through a special application of power of a Grand Master. The process of making a Mason at Sight, listed by Albert Mackey as the 8th of his 25 landmarks of Freemasonry, customarily is for raising a person to Master Mason through the process of recognizing him as a Mason. The Grand Master creates a new lodge for the single purpose of initiating the candidate.
Just enclose $33.
The occasional lodge is then dissolved when the reason for its creation, the initiation of the candidate, has been completed.
Well, that's
before
actually
all this
the more
stuff, there was
common version.
Pythagoras, and to even get into Pythagoras' school, you had to master mathematics all the way through trigonometry before they even explained to you what the mysteries were and what they were attempting to understand. So it's like just to come in, you already had to work out your mind so hard and prove that you had some attrition, you know what I mean? So just to be able to bestow the rank of Mason onto someone is like incredible, because that's like it's like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and they just hand you a purple belt, but you never have to like roll with anyone to actually find out, you know. But it's like they're not getting any of the benefits of the peace that transcends understanding, and they're still living like worldly ways. Like tons of like cops are Masons, but if you had insight into the mystery schools, you could never be a cop. So it's like they're not gaining any of the benefits, and
it's just like the same reason you have like 13 steppers and people that are like joining the club for favors. You know, you have people that are joining and becoming Masons to help their fellow craftsmen and to receive more light, and you have people that are just trying to be in the cool.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a monasterial lifestyle, you know, like to be an aesthetic, you know what I mean? So like you're giving up a whole lot of like bells and whistles.
I feel like if you're a cop in San Francisco and you're surrounded with people that are just defecating the streets, and you're getting paid $30,000 a month or year, maybe 60. Like you're getting paid like a teacher a lot of the time, and you know your wife hates you, right? So not all the time, but come on. Let me imagine my fantasy. And they go to the Scottish Rite Temple, which is like San Francisco is a notoriously Irish Catholic city. So it's interesting to see how the cops have become very associated with the Scottish Rite in San Francisco. And I think they think of themselves as like Brahmins, you know, because they're these are the cops. They're isolated castes of a class, and the people around them are genuinely beyond rehabilitation, at least for them. So
Dude, I almost want to be like
before we move on, Thomas, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I don't remember.
Damn,
he's on the spot.
Big payoff there.
Yeah,
I didn't even mean to pick on
Freemasons.
cops too much like that. Like I don't know. Maybe you can be a cop and still have an interest into you know, the spiritual world. I don't know. I shouldn't have said that. But.
Yeah, you see,
there's good cops out there.
I see
Spirit of the law versus slaughter, man.
But I see your point that it's hard in this system. It's kind of like being a teacher in this educational system. But somehow people keep trying to do it. So I would be surprised.
You do what you can.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like it's almost like a Randian thing where everyone isn't invited. Like the way, you know what I mean? Like you have to be able to do the thing fully, or there's no point in doing it. So you know, in Atlas Shrugged, you know, they go and form Cults Gulch, where all the industrialists, all the creatives, all go so they can fully flex their God-given talent, but they wouldn't be able to integrate it into the world, and no one would benefit if they were integrated with the world. So the mystery schools are kind of the same way. You were like cloistering yourself away from the world, you know what I mean, and becoming antisocial and aesthetic. So it's like that. There was a steep price to entry to gain these insights. It's not that somebody has to let you into a club because you prove yourself. You have to give up certain things in order to allow space
let yourself
for the insights to enter. So there is no way to cheat it. No one can bestow it upon you.
Right.
Well, okay. So there's a couple of thoughts there. So I remember going to this Boy Scout camp as a kid, and they're like, you got to get your knife degree. I'm like, I'm using my knife all the time. I'm whittling and stuff like that. And like, you got to get your knife degree. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is like getting, and you know, usually I would be like, forget you, but you got to do it if you won't even use your knife there. So I'm sitting there during the class. I'm like, first question is like, what if you already know how to use a knife? Which I guess is like, put your hand on that wall, son. Like, it's a dumb question. So he like goes to hand me a knife backwards. And I grab it, and I don't say thank you, because you gotta hand a knife backwards. You gotta flip it around where you're holding the blade, and then you don't let go until someone says thank you. And that's like the beginning of this dogma that you start to learn. They're going to teach you if you're going to become a Freemason or a Boy Scout on the way to Freemasonry. It's like,
right, but
clearly
there's
there's
number
a way.
one thing, the honor, like Scouts honor, and how is that any different than the requisites of Freemasonry?
Because it doesn't come with like death threats.
Why is it that like
I disagree? If you didn't get death threats as a Boy Scout, you were doing it wrong. You didn't wear any fishnets, did you?
I took that oath, and I took it
wasn't
seriously.
it like every freaking astronaut was like, I don't know, maybe you could fact check this, but I've heard before, and Thomas, you probably know the answer, that all the astronauts that went to the moon, that they were all 33rd degree Freemasons. Is that true, or is that false?
and you're pretty special. I would give you an honorary degree if you went to the
Is
Masonic.
it an
That's what it
honorary
is.
degree? Because I thought you could only
33rd
get
is-
32nd honorary degrees
No,
like Obama
33rd
did.
is the honorary.
Right.
33 is the honorary. 32nd
is
is
that-
the normal.
Well, then
Not
how
normie,
come
but-
Obama has a 32nd honorary degree? What's
Prince
that about?
Hall, because he's black.
Yeah.
That's supposedly the reason, right?
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
Turns
let's do
out, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Nope.
I was going to say before too that that occasional lodge is not a completely unique thing.
No.
It's a little bit different than the lodges that you see that have brick and mortars that are set up with like a building that you drive by. But an occasional lodge would be like if a bunch of Freemasons were to get together and they wanted to do like a specific thing, like they had an intentional goal, then the occasional lodge could just be someone's house after a certain time, or like stay at the
It's
bar
like D&D. You just have to
until
keep
after they
notes.
close. And then once your objective is complete, that lodge is supposed to dissolve. So that little blurb you were pulling up where they would set up an occasional lodge, confer degrees, and then dissolve it again, that's actually how original lodges were sort of orchestrated. So that's not like really out of the ordinary.
If you're gonna do a meeting, like you set up a meeting, you have notes, you keep the notes, you've got the minutes of the meeting. This is how you're able to remember. You keep records of your meeting. If this matters, this is kind of a guild contract style. But you look at some of these famous Masonite sites, like the
Our bathtub boy, William Howard Taft.
yeah, I was gonna start with Francis Stephen, but yeah, you're right. We got right to the vampire. I mean, the werewolf. The werewolf. He's a big old boy.
He's a big boy.
But Francis Stephen, who became the Holy Roman Emperor, and so that's one of the interesting things right around the Act of Sophia, Naturalization Act. But another one, of course, Joseph Smith, founder of the LDS Church, was made a Masonite site months before his death, or was it 2 years, or it's like 6 months to 2 years. General George C. Marshall was raised to Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of the District of Columbia. General Douglas MacArthur. But yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have really glossed over Taft, because one thing that was interesting is that he was inaugurated just weeks prior to his inauguration. So it kind of feels like this is a thing where like
initiated weeks prior to his inauguration. Is what you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
But he's also Skull and Bones, so I feel like he probably went through a lot of the very similar degrees going through Skull and Bones as he would have through Freemasonry. So I'll go out on a limb.
They're like, you gotta use your right hand this time. It's different.
Well, yeah, this is
They're like, we're gonna teach you this one just so you don't think it's Geronimo's head every time.
You can drink out
Andreas, I have a question for you. So you interviewed Leo Zagami at one point.
Yeah.
And Leo Zagami has made the claim that in the Royal Arch degree of Freemasonry, that in the actual initiation ceremony, that there's a point at the end where you're told to walk past the two pillars and visualize them crumbling behind you. And he was kind of connecting this to the Zohar prophecy that relates to kind of like a Tisha B'Av for the world. And so it's very, very profound thing to get into. But I went trying to investigate this many years back, and I actually found it was the website sacredtext.com actually has the different degree. Like, so they've basically gone to court. The people who run that website, I've met one of them. He's a lawyer who's actually from Santa Cruz, and he told me that totally. And not only did he help get a lot of the Freemasonic stuff disclosed for the public or whatever, he did that with Manly P. Hall writings that weren't available to the public as well. But one of the things that struck me is that when I looked up here, so here we're looking at the Royal Arch degree. Is this on sacredtext.com? Okay.
Yeah.
So does this cut off at the bottom? Like, because this is years ago. I told him about this. I was like, man, I'm looking at the thing, and then it just like it didn't have the tower thing, but it also just like didn't finish all the steps. Like it. So I asked him about that, and he said he would look into it. But
I think it's kind of confusing how this. Let's do a Freemason pyramid. You know what I'm talking about, like the stepping ladder thing.
Sure.
Scottish.
I've actually got a copy of the original. I'll go and grab it really quick.
Dude, you're a wise and handsome brother. Okay,
David. And so as I'm thinking,
look at it. Let me just say this really quick though, because I'm gonna forget.
Yeah.
Look at this, step by step by step by step, leap by leap by leap by leap.
Right.
Okay. All right. Now continue. Sorry.
So as I was thinking about that, or visualizing the two pillars, and them crumbling behind, it would like be that's like the high priestess. That's Gimel, right? Like on the 22.
Why did somebody say here you're confusing the Royal Arch with the Royal Arch degree? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, the Royal Arch degree is the 7th degree. So
Right.
I think the Royal Arch degree is you reach it when you get. Let me see here. So yeah, check this out. Let me show you the map again. Sorry, I was looking at it. Down here, when you get past 3rd degree, you get to the 7th degree here. Straight across is the beginning of the Mark Master, right?
And so the right side is York right.
Right.
Everything on the right is York, and everything on the left is Scottish right.
Right. And so they're both really important and entwined. And so, you know, like, for instance, if you go to the Scottish Rite Temple in San Francisco, you have on one side of the auditorium they're not quite, it's not ascended master, not prophet. What do you call these guys? Master Masons.
The worshipful master?
Worshipful masters.
They're like I would liken them to like the class president.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like how you like. I like how
it explained to me that the term.
Please downplay it more. Yeah.
Well, it sounds so high and mighty, worshipful master, but really the way that it's described to me as a lowly mason is that it means worshipful in that this is a person that is good at worshiping like God.
Yeah.
So
like the chosen people being people who choose. I get it.
I thought it was clear. The idea that it is a Mason is the most humble person. Well, ironically, I guess I get your point. It's like kind of maybe the Catholic Church is inverted its associations of what its ideals are. But with Freemasonry, technically, you are supposed to be serving the greater good, right? And so the more you remember great men who were great at serving the world, like somehow the reason that you consider them great is that they've made the world a better place, so it's perpetuated, right?
Even that, better than that, you have a few of them throughout the ages to make an egregore out of, so you see the archetype and you know what to aspire to.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, well, what about, do you guys want to talk about, I want to talk about William.
Proof. Here it is. Here's the actual original that you're showing.
Wow.
Look at how big it is compared to my head. It's huge.
Wow, yeah, it's true, guys. He does have a rather large
huge
head.
Yeah,
it's true.
I'm just kidding.
So, yeah.
No, it is. He looks like one of my Croatian cop cousins. He's, it's like a size.
You want to know what's so trippy about all this mystery schools as they present today? Like, who is exposed to like all that information and went through all of Skull and Bones? George W. Bush. Like, you can be exposed to all this information and come out George W. Bush. I don't know. It's just trippy.
Right. And what it must have looked like to George W. Bush to see the symbolism so directly and to be in that position and know
he just liked the part with Durama's head. He just liked the part with the Indian head. He thought it was fun.
I think somebody must have convinced him this is your role to be the fall guy in this lifetime. You know what I mean? Like somebody must have convinced him. I mean, if he knows these concepts, why would he fall for it so easily?
Do you think it was Bert?
Are you talking about George W. Bush? I think George W. Bush was raised he took theater at Yale. He's essentially like a Yale trained clown, like a jester. Like he's and you can see it in the way some of the President Ford. He was an amazing physical comic. Right, like he could just fall. He
fell one time. He fell one time.
Was it really just one?
You fuck one goat, and you're George the Goat Fucker.
One time, and Chevy Chase was on Saturday Night Live for 1 year, and that's what he did every week. Is he was Ford falling down the ladder, falling down something different.
Oh my god, dude!
I really feel like it was more than just the stair. It was just the stairs. I'm gonna look that up. If that's true,
Biden's done it more than Ford. No,
but the timing, dude, the timing was so perfect.
Chevy Chase did it over and over again.
He's the unelected president. He's the president who was never elected by anybody, right? Like Nixon picked him to be his vice president when his vice president Rockefeller resigned, and then after Nixon resigned, quit. Then this guy who's never been elected becomes. I mean, arguably no president's ever been elected, but this guy for real. This is crazy.
Right,
Hey, I'm seeing kind of a sync thing here. Just bear with me for one moment. Do you remember that challenge where you'd stack the little boxes and try and walk up the boxes, and they were like a triangle, the milk crate challenge. You remember that?
Yeah.
And I was like tripping out at that time. I was like, are they just like laughing at the peasants with their own like little rinky-dink version of what we were just looking at with the degrees? Because that like those two things, like, and then I was like, all the times where a president falls off the stairs feels to me like it's like they're supposed to be ascending. You're like, oh, they're doing the thing, and then it's like, oh no, they boofed it. Sorry. It just feels like there's some symbolism there. There was.
I believe the physical comedy is the most universal form of comedy. Like the Three Stooges is still the most popular form of comedy, and like there
was James Mazzio was a client that I stretched canvases for, who's since passed, but he was really close with Neil Young, and he was the original lighting guy for the Velvet Underground before the guy kind of became famous for being that. But anyway, he told me a story one time when he met Jim Morrison at Andy Warhol's like warehouse space, cool spot, whatever. He said that Jim Morrison was standing at the top of the stairs, and he asked, there's only a couple people standing there. There's like, this wasn't like a room full of people. And Maz was at the bottom of the stairs, and he goes, hey, do you want to see my John Wayne impersonation? And Maz was like, okay. And Jim Morrison just purposely fell down the stairs and then gets to the bottom and does like a bow and then like walks out. It was the weirdest interaction.
No, and then remember in Cocktail and Dreams, Cocktail with Tom Cruise, his buddy, this is something that you do. Like physical comedy is the most important universalizing thing, and comedy is always at the expense of somebody. So if it's at your own expense, then it's something that anthropologically will make people happy. And you can look around the world, like in Indonesia and Bali, the clowns, the priests of Bali are clowns, and they go around and they make, because the gods are clearly having bad days. That's when they kill people. So what you do is you make the gods laugh, and that way, hopefully, the storms won't come and people won't die. So I mean, well, it's a very universal.
It's in the etymology. The word fool actually is tied to meaning holy. There's like a whole thing of like the holy man and the fool. Yeah, totally.
Wow.
That's supposedly the significance of that in the tarot deck.
You see all the comedies over where the jester is like in charge of like the fate of a lot of people. If he can't make the king laugh, then it's trouble. And so it's a big important job.
William Pals says G is God in a hoodie in the Mason symbol, and I can see it. That's adorable, really. When you think, oh, look at him. Kind of cute.
The G, I don't need to tell you guys, is
Gimel,
and it corresponds to the pathway between Keter and Tiferet, and that's like,
and that's
the whole
better.
thing.
I was imagining, the high priestess, as you walk in and you go into like basically the supernal triad. At that point, once you pass across the abyss, there would be no need for the towers, right? So they can crumble.
Easier is it to get a rich man through? Was it through the eye of a needle?
Of heaven, then
camel through the eye of a needle. All right, the Gimel, right?
Yeah. Right, because that is a vertical pathway, so that's a spiritual dimension. And the Masons and everybody else, the Golden Dawn and the OTO and whatever, they pretend that it's a diagonal pathway in order to make the 777 lightning flash work. And it's the only pathway that doesn't align with that lightning flash. And so it's like you have to pretend in order for the whole system to work. So it's basically like it's a lie at the center of our society on a very, very primary level, but we all walk around like that's not that we lack that connection and we need a mediator,
right? Which is tied to like the generative principle as well, and with the high priestess being the equivalent as far as the tarot cards, the trumps on the paths, on the 22 paths. But that's the lost word. That's the stone the builders rejected, right? What it gets replaced by is basically the strength. So the strength is the horizontal between Chesed and Gevurah, and we have that as a stand-in for this other hidden pathway. Lust.
Right. Well, the horizontal is the terrestrial, and it's the top of the terrestrial pillars. So those two pillars, we see them ascend past that with the supernal triad, but really the top of them is that pathway. And I would argue that whether conscious or not, what is his name, Philippe Petit, I think, something like that, that guy who put the wire between the two towers, that was an extremely symbolic act. I equate it with the pulling of the branch with the golden bough, Nemi, but you know, that's like one of the most significant points in all my studies of Kabbalah, and it's actually a very, very meaningful how that relates with like what's happened with European occultism to traditional Kabbalah. And it's actually, if you take the two schools, the mystery schools, and you kind of put them together, you can see implications arise on their own just from the way that the traditionalists relate to it versus the secret society folks, you know. It's crazy.
Based. Okay, I had have you guys seen Plan 10 from Outer Space?
Plan 9.
Nobody
What
has.
do you got Plan
Nobody's
10?
seen Plan 10.
I haven't.
All right, here's how this happened to me. So I've been making my music, and if you look up If You Could Hide a Kolob, because there's a song about Joseph Smith's like crazy, you know, like Book of Abraham, like art facsimile translations, the hieroglyph facsimile translations, high to Kolob. And I was like, oh, it was used in this movie apparently called Plan 10 from Outer Space.
What the heck?
I was like, what's Plan 10 from Outer Space? Well, Plan 10
It's
is
not
a
woods.
surrealist. It's a surrealist satire of Mormon theology. It has no connection to Plan 9 from Outer Space, but I would argue it kind of does because it's like probably the most accurate. It's crazy. This is amazing art.
What year was this released?
So this is released in 1994, and I'm probably gonna have to buy a DVD or a Blu-ray, and therefore I will buy a Blu-ray. That's why I've been thinking about getting a Blu-ray player because that's why. I mean, I got a PlayStation, but this movie, man, it's clearly insane. Look at what they're look.
Oh, yeah. This is serious high budget shit.
It's right Rocky here. Horror meets the Mormons. Yeah, because they don't do drugs in Utah. He's like a BYU professor, and he made this amazing. It's all. Oh, I'm so excited.
Dude, I did drugs with people in Utah. What are you talking? In Salt Lake City, even. What are you talking about? Marijuana is not a drug. I used to suck dick for coke. Sorry.
Yeah, keep it down about that.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah. But
how do you watch these movies, bro? Do you put this on like 1.5 speed?
I'm gonna
get through these.
I'm gonna try to watch this movie, but he talks about like how they moved to Utah, their plans to create this new world. You know, I don't know, just the idea of the Deseret language. He calls it insidious. Then there's like people on the moon reading and learning. Like they talk to the prophet Moroni or something.
That looks like AI language.
You know what this is? This is the Mormon language, Deseret script. Because the Mormons actually were like, we're gonna move to Utah. We're gonna invent our own language, and it's basically. They created their own script. Actually, I have tons of books in this stuff. And they have like the Mormon Gazette, the Deseret newspaper, and everything like that.
Language?
So the deal is it's actually phonetically identical to you can write English in this. And so they were teaching people that came from different, like from Russia and from America.
So it's almost like a cipher.
Yeah, but they wanted to, as time went on, they were planning on dividing for like Secrets of Nim. They wanted to completely separate from the United States after the assassination. So they were completely creating a new language. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. But it didn't work. They got over it probably within 60, 70 years.
Remember Esperanto? Anyone old enough to remember Esperanto?
Yeah.
I've seen movies in it. Esperanto. There's movies with
Esperanto.
Isn't it? Oh yeah,
no, Esperanto. Is it Esperanto or Zo?
Yeah, Esperanto. Yeah, there's movies in it. There's a movie with William Shatner that I saw in Esperanto, Incubus, 1966. I love this movie. It reminds me of Beowulf or something, you know?
So what, did they phonetically memorize all the lines?
The whole movie is in Esperanto, and so they
obviously the actors don't know it, right?
I think William Shatner was learning Esperanto because you know at the time they were really pushing Esperanto to be
he's like the most
language.
MK Ultra actor ever, so that makes sense. He thinks he went to space with Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, bro. Like, I mean, he's 90. You could probably convince him, like, all right, you're in Disney World, you know, and it's just in the back of the van.
Right. Yeah.
What about the T? What's it called, Gene? Sorry, the T. TKTL1 gene. Single gene mutation may have made us smarter than Neanderthals. Have you heard about this?
Is this the one that's in alpha brain?
Yeah, no, that'd be cool. Probably. You know, the idea is that there, like 48,000 years ago or something like that, there was a mutation resulting in a single amino acid change in the protein called TKTL1.
Okay.
And that this completely changed our brain. This is about that moment where Lacanian language starts to emerge at all, right? And so this is where we're thinking our brain is being used in a different way. Some people like to associate it with seizures, strokes, mutations, mushrooms, you know, drugs, ergot. I think it's probable that it has more to do with a mutation. If you have a natural cataclysmic disaster and your diet changes and the sun and the, you look at cannabis plants when they grow them and the lights are flickering all the time and they become hermaphrodites. That's a simulation of what it was like for Campi Flegrei and like some of these volcanoes to go off in years without a summer. Your biology was confused. You know what I mean? And you didn't
my
have
model
like
of
AC.
nature, human beings are performing a function just like trees and like
We're just
shellfish
trying
and
to
everything
function.
is like, everything's performing its function to make nature go. So I think any animal that evolves sufficiently will get that instance of philosophical thought so that they can carry forth their duty of building technologies and doing whatever our role is in the greater picture.
I really
My
hope
cannabis
so.
was born in the wrong body. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I'm glad you spoke
We're all
up.
born in the wrong body, right?
I think, well,
born this way in the wrong body.
Well, we really
I
are,
feel
man.
like-
Like, think about like if you just
We're
love
supposed to be
basketball
angels.
or anything. Like, if you wish you were taller, that's because you really wish everything was just unified. Everything was unity, so there would be no taller and shorter. And you should have the same feeling if you're tall and you get all the benefits of being tall in society. You should be like, this sucks. I wish I was like average height. You know what I mean? But no one really feels that way. But that would be like very evolved.
It sounds like
It's a
communism,
very
sir.
evolved view that everything
Yeah.
is functioning perfectly, and you're just dissatisfied with your role in it.
Yeah, I think there's an audience question in the
Yeah?
think tank messages. Just might want to take a
Okay.
look.
I don't
Sorry,
see
I
it.
always
Where
have
is
to
it?
try to
You
divert
mean,
to philosophy.
Is it in
Sorry.
X?
Yes, an Xbox.
Alrighty then.
By the way, I switched my shirt because I was cold, in case anyone's wondering.
Hey, Tyrion says, hey, mods, can someone please ask David if he feels Stanley Kubrick was a Thelemite, or does he see Thelemic themes in Kubrick's movies?
I honestly don't think Kubrick was really anything that you could pin down, but I think he was hip to like most things. I think he was like a conversationalist who was just very well read and all kinds of stuff. I watched two talks from rabbis at the Kubrick exhibit in San Francisco. I think I've talked about this before, where they discussed how one of them discussed how Eyes Wide Shut and Leonard Cohen's You Want It Darker are basically about the same thing as it relates to the Klipo and the demuning of the moon and what that's symbolic of. So like Kubrick was very, very hip to all kinds of things, alchemy, Freemasonry, European occultism, and traditional Kabbalah. And in fact, I would say
he was trying to hip that CBS guy to the Golden Bough, right? He sent him the unabridged version, like
totally, and
however many,
that's
like,
anthropology,
volumes.
yeah.
What did he say? Like he kept on calling every week to see if the guy had read it. Like, have you read it yet? No. Have you read it yet? No. Have you read it? He's like, why would I read this? It's mythology. And he what did he say? This isn't mythology. This is your life.
This is one of the best lines ever. Yeah, that's the basis for a comic book that is going to come out at some point here from Thomas.
Wow,
it's got a lot of potential.
It's a secret.
It's a secret. It's an open secret.
Yeah.
But
we're gonna kill everyone now, so no one's living alive.
I would say more than anything, Kubrick was more aware of like traditional Kabbalah, but I think he was also aware of the implications of what had become of Kabbalah. So it's in that contrast, and that's what I see throughout Kubrick's films is just kind of like a very that's great. Is a very mature perspective on occultism in general. He's kind of all over the place, but he was cohesive, so he could see how things fit together.
Was that Death of a Salesman? It looked like it.
Where? Oh, there.
It makes me feel like it's like a Flintstones Death of a Salesman.
Who's that? Condoleezza Rice? Where are we at?
What is happening? I think we need some background music for this.
Yeah, shit. I can.
Oh, I'm muted. That was hilarious.
Captain Confederate. Oh, you were talking the whole time.
I was like, I knew it.
I was like, what's happening right now?
Thanks, girl. No, I actually was for a long time I was saying like VBDC said something earlier, and I was like, "What's his name?" And I finally remembered Rechtenwald. But we'll get there. My Captain Confederacy is an amazing comic book series, and there's 2 parts. The first Captain Confederacy agrees to undergo a biological experiment that grants him super strength, enhanced agility, and healing, as well as limited psychic abilities. But those chemicals are addictive and are slowly killing him. In the second series, the new Captain Confederacy is a black woman pregnant with the previous captain's baby. She has similar superpowers garnered from the same source. This is great. You can get it at archive.org, and I think it's better than Captain America. And this is my Captain America, pregnant black Captain Confederacy. All right. All right.
I thought the superpower was that he turned into that black lady.
I mean, basically, that's how this works. Socialists think that the economy is a pie to be divided up and passed around. But the economy is not a pie. It's an oven for baking pies. Socialists dismantle the oven and pass out the parts. True, false, Dr. Michael Rechtenwald. What do you guys think?
False. It's not an oven or a pie. I don't think.
I mean, I'm glad you didn't go with the oven jokes, but yeah. So why is America? Okay, what is it? What do you mean? It's not a machine.
This is the LP candidate, and for some reason, no one's going to talk about him because he's not flashy, and he's also not an ascended master or but he just basically understands libertarian philosophy. He has good principles that everybody sane would agree with, and he has the critical thinking to apply them to every situation and have the correct take on everything. He's not flashy or exciting in any ways, but the Libertarian Party garnered 5% of the national vote in 2016. 5%. If the Libertarian Party could get to 10% of the vote, or RFK or anybody, then we essentially have a situation where the 2 major party candidates have to moderate their position to that third person as well, creating like a triangulation, which will land you somewhere near the American people as opposed to going to the extremes of the left and the right. So this guy, no one talks about him. Like I'm telling like Anomaly all the time, can you please interview this guy? Like, but it's always the flashy people, the Viveks. Does anyone think Vivek was going to get 5% of the national vote? Anyone who thinks that
I did because he was hanging.
That happened with the Libertarian Party in 2016 with a horrible candidate, Gary Johnson. Then we had another terrible candidate and they got like 2.5%. We could easily get 10% if all just the independent journalists, but I know all the independent journalists, and I tell not all of them, but a few. No one's interviewing this guy because he's not really exciting or flashy, and it's like you really got to remember your own principles and priorities. And it's great to get a lot of attention on the internet and monetize it, but it's like remember they could just shut you out of the internet if there's a social credit score. Like you also have to calculate in not only your own progress, but like how safe is the world becoming if everyone does what you do, you know? So it's like. I don't know. This is a good presidential candidate, and like it's in a year where no one wants to vote for Trump or Biden. That's insane to sign your name up to either of those guys.
Let me ask you this:
sign your name up to just trying to raise this to 10%. You know.
Yeah, I mean, getting 5% to a third party is literally how the anti-Masons Republican
Party had 5%
started.
in 2016. The Libertarian Party 10% is what.
But I just mean like you go back to like 1820s. You go back to 1820s to 1840s. You've got the Democratic Party is the oldest party in America, but not quite that far behind it is the Republican Party because they were the first third party, and it was through the anti-Masons that they got enough votes so they could get 5%. And we've not done that in 200 years almost. So we should probably, even the Green Party, for God's sakes, whatever it takes, if you guys want your like black socialist party, that's fine. But we need 5% to a third party. So the Libertarian Party seems like a thing. You could at least, I think this is a reasonable thing. He follows me now.
If this guy was on a debate stage, he would make Trump and Biden sound insane. Everybody in America that still watches these debates, which is not many, I guess, but everybody who's paying attention would be like, there's one guy here that sounds like a human being and 2 total psychos. You know what I mean? So it would just change the whole dynamic in a favorable way. And the next 4 years are going to be rough, unless manna from heaven comes or something. It seems like it's going to be economically bad and just a socially bad time. So it's like, we got to endure that either way. We might as well be nudging the ball in the right direction instead of
getting debates.
I'm a big 2 evils every 4 years.
I'm a big fan of, like, even if you don't think you're going to get somebody elected, I'm a big fan of getting somebody into the camera and into the microphone so that the rest of the candidates, which I mean, there's really one stage, I guess. But the Rothschilds are totally normal people. The point is, you can get a stage together where they have to talk about the issues that you've been talking about. If people are so used to hearing this guy talk on the internet, those issues are going to come up in the debates, even from your stooge candidates. So,
So
I think
like this guy, you could present him with any political question, and he could have never heard of it before. Something dealing with social media or the internet or AI that he's never heard of, and he would hear your question, and he'd be like, "Let me think. What are my principles? What's my philosophy on governance?" The answer is same thing every time. Consistency. You know what I mean? It's like that's all politicians supposed to be doing.
Yeah. You know what? You shared a link to this guy on Twitter yesterday or the day before, and I did look him up, and I looked at
He's
some
nothing
stuff.
special. He's nothing special.
It's not. That's not. Well, I hear why you're saying that, and then it makes sense. And I'm just gonna say, like, I don't dislike that guy from what I gather, and that's just tip of the iceberg. But I mean, I'm over here like not to negate anything about him, but like I've been following RFK for 10 years. I can't fucking believe he's at where he's at right now. I'm like, and every criticism that I hear, it's almost always
Tucker Carlson's out here interviewing Putin, so it's fine for America.
David, did you watch the Dave Smith and RFK debate on Gaza?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
It's heated. I thought that there were points in the debate, because my issue with RFK is a complex topic, and I don't need to dedicate too much of the show to it. But I would just.
But they just started Curb Your Enthusiasm. The final season is out.
Yeah, that was a good first episode too. But you know, it's basically like his last talks that he's given about Israel. For the most part, he's actually correct. My beef with what he's been saying is what he leaves out, or what he has left out. And in that discussion, debate, whatever you want to call it, there were a few times, one in particular, where the things that I wanted to hear from him, he straight out said and acknowledged. And so even though
he's swole, look at this. If Biden looked like this, I would give him a second chance. I mean, come on. Swole grandpa.
I'll just say that they both made good arguments. My problem with RFK Jr. is his philosophy on governance informs him that he has the right to act. You know what I mean? I don't think there's ever a right to thing is, it's like action. I don't like to use I kind of consider it fallacious when people just go to whataboutism. But like, seriously though, if you're going to compare his views on Israel Palestine, especially after a Palestinian was accused of killing his father and everything else has happened with his family involving, like his father was hated for his views on Israel to the point that was like the most charged of all of his positions. And so it's like, for him to even be able to acknowledge what he's able to acknowledge in the face of what Biden and freaking Trump are about with Israel, my God, it's a world apart. I'm in favor of a vote for RFK is a vote well spent. It's the same direction as Michael Rechtenwald, except I don't know who could get 10% easier, to be honest with you. So I think either of those is a vote in a good direction. Neither of them is going to be president.
What about a third party? You get the fear factor party. If you had Joe Rogan, decide he's going to run. He could very well clinch it for it'd be full-blown idiocracy.
I just don't think it would move the ball in the right direction for like the next 100 years of trying to get sanity back on the throne. You know what I mean?
Totally. But I want to see that debate. I want to see a debate with your guy, or I want to see a debate with RFK, with these schmucks. Like, how entertaining would that be? They can't even. I mean, come on.
What does he look like with his shirt off?
Which one?
Rechtenwald.
LP.
Probably not the best. Probably all right. Actually, he looks pretty.
Probably got dad, but he looks like he's got his stuff together. Yeah.
Doesn't Biden have like a Delaware tattoo?
We should just stop having debates and start having wrestling matches anyway.
Yeah,
like, totally. I feel like I'm going in April to see Jacob Isbell, who I've had on the show, wrestle with Jacob Hansen. And they both are like one's into dialectical philosophy and Jungian and this and that, and the other one, like he's into like spirituality and philosophy and everything. But I think the fact that a debate between them isn't nearly as interesting as watching them wrestle. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like more will be decided. I hate saying it.
You do you. Well, a show of strength. What is strength? Like that. If we're going to talk Kabbalah, that's the crux of everything.
If I could watch Noam Chomsky like wrestle instead of debate, I would pay money. I would actually go.
If we're talking about Noam Chomsky. Speaking on Chomsky with Biden, I'm down.
I would totally watch Grandpa.
What about naked debate? Just like a regular debate, but they're all naked.
Were they not? I assume they were naked, covered in oil. Sorry.
So there was that Senate hearing with Bernie Sanders, where you had the union guy who he's about to go fisticuffs with, I forget which House representative, and Bernie's like, and he's Gentlemen, come on. No, stop it.
right.
But,
We watched that on the show.
I'm ready for Bernie to step in and be like, okay, here's the deal. Joe Biden, you're an asshole. Trump, you're a
Keep
piece
your
of
blows
shit.
above the waist. He turns into the ref.
I know I said I wouldn't do this, but I've got to run. And he's got his little cape on. And his little Bernie Sanders leotard.
That's what the Curb Your Enthusiasm Larry David is doing, because he played Bernie and he's going to have more control over the Bernie character.
Well, there was a season that was referencing RFK's life directly, according to RFK. So he says that it was Ted Danson is asking permission to be with Cheryl after Larry David is no longer with her, and he gives him permission, and he's like, "Yeah, that's okay, you can do that." But then he goes to Cheryl, and Larry David's just like, "That's a terrible idea." Well, it's weird because even though Larry David wasn't actually with Cheryl in real life, RFK asked him permission if what he thought about him being with Cheryl, and he's like, he did the same thing to him. He's like, "Great idea," and then he went around and Larry David told Cheryl, "No, it'll be a disaster. What are you talking about?" So that's based on reality.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just started making a song about Rothschilds starting the Jekyll Island. It's going to be done in a minute. I'll let you know how that goes. I still want to talk about William Morgan. Maybe Paranoid American. Do you want to talk about this a little bit? Do you have any thoughts on William Morgan? Because
that Will Morgan.
I mean,
oh my gosh. How have I not made that sync?
No, it was made earlier in the comments by Will Morgan himself. Will Morgan said, "I can't join Freemasonry because of my name alone."
He was Will Morgan this whole time.
Will's gonna be here next week, and that's really funny. And I promise, Will, I promise to never sacrifice you ever.
I'm making no such promises.
To people unaware,
don't say that, because Will takes this stuff pretty seriously.
I'm the wild card here.
To people unaware, Will is my bandmate.
He's been
the whole time.
We found William Morgan. It's okay, Freemasons. You had it all wrong. Okay, that actually plays into this though. So I was watching this video, new perspective on William Morgan affair from it's the Masonic Library of Chancellor Robert R. Livingston Masonic Library. He's a Lutheran minister and 32nd probably degree Freemason, maybe higher. I haven't looked at him. Seems like an interesting guy, and I like a lot of his videos so far. But of course, he's like, Freemasons can do no wrong. They're good Lutherans, and any conspiracy against them is crazy. And I liked this video on the truth about the Morgan affair, or his just new perspective on the Morgan affair.
Does he have a video on the P2 Lodge by any chance?
I don't think he did the propaganda duo lodge. I'd like to see that. Let me see propaganda P2.
Oh,
lodge.
Funny that Masons can do no wrong, so I guess you just can't make that video.
Well, he's racist against Italians, I'm sure. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know that. I mean, that's a joke, because Masons are supposed to not be racist. That's why I'm saying that. But here's the deal. He talks about how there's all this propaganda about William Morgan. William Morgan is, though, this guy who says he's going to out their secrets, not just their trade secrets, but their names and everything like that. And it becomes this sort of Scientology anonymous posting thing and this Masonic hysteria. They're like, because we don't know exactly what you're doing behind there, but we can kind of figure out who you are. And so for whatever reason, this guy disappears right before his books come out, and a lot of people assumed that the Freemasons must have killed the guy, but there's really no evidence for that. Sure, there's a body that floated up on the shore of Niagara Falls beach, but it could have easily been that it was another guy. And
does that happen every day? I would assume that happened at least once a week.
I'm not kidding when I say I assume it does, right? There have to be people falling off Niagara Falls all the time, and especially back then, drunks and stuff like that. But sure, the other thing is he did have a lot of debts. So if he just escaped to England under a new alias, I can't prove he didn't. So there's that kind of idea. But then there's this idea that maybe it was all made up. And then I found that really interesting, because you have this sort of inner Masonic struggle. There's groups of Masons fighting against other Freemasons. People are losing their jobs. People are being fired from schools. There's a witch hunt going on to hunt down members of your community that are Freemasons. And after that, Masonry kind of becomes more secretive. Up to that point, Masonry was completely what everyone was doing, essentially, unless you were Catholic. there was a lot of Masons in the United States.
Right. It gets kind of like put together with other secret societies that were like not really that were secret, you know, that were more secret. And so I
Right.
think isn't that like the Hellfire Club and these kind of
Right.
weird ass clubs? Yeah.
I just saw that movie, The Hellfire Club, 1961. Have you seen that movie? It's kind of about like Benjamin Franklin and his friend or something. Like as little kids sneak into like the cave and they see their parents having a Masonic ritual. And it's very thelemic. Like there's a woman on the altar in front of the man, and everyone's around this naked woman. You know, this is like, and these kids are like, "What are my
I
parents
haven't
doing?"
seen that. Let's make a music video out of that. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Is that good? As good as you make it sound?
It's pretty interesting. Yeah. As I still I was just more interested in Satyricon.
Hey,
recently.
did you guys know that there's, or are you going somewhere else? I'll
No, it's
come
fine.
back to this if you. Oh,
No,
okay.
keep going.
Did you guys know that there's like a X-rated movie that's like apparently really impossible to find? If you can help me, Thomas, I'd really appreciate it. There's a movie on that's called Hollywood Babylon. That's not the documentary one by Kenneth Anger, but it's actually a recreation of the things that he describes in Hollywood Babylon. This like, it's X-rated. I think it's from the 1970s, maybe early 70s, 60s. Something. I don't know exactly when, but they like have like all these old Hollywood stars or people playing Hollywood stars, and they recreate what is described in Kenneth Anger's Hollywood Babylon. You guys ever heard of that?
No.
I want to find that movie. If you can help me find that, Thomas, I'd really appreciate it. It's just pretty.
I found an
obscure
article about it.
Yeah, you'll find that. But yeah, anyway.
Here's the statue of Will Morgan in front of the train tracks in a town where he, was disappeared, like in front of the jail where he was last seen, right? Because he was apparently getting wrongful arrests, is what people claim, but there's no evidence that he might have been a petty thief. Who knows? But the statue of him, he has a hidden hand. And
no, he had an ulcer. He always was like in pain, and like it's true.
That's because he's laughing. He's laughing at you.
Sorry.
No, but the idea that this shows Masons it's safe when you get off the train because the statue of William Morgan himself has a hidden hand now, so it's okay now. I don't know. What do you guys think about the William Morgan affair? And especially Thomas, do you have any thoughts on?
I've heard that it was fake, although I feel like it's not so far-fetched that a bunch of Masons got together and killed some dude. But also, here's the theory that I've heard that I find the most interesting is that whether it's real or fake, Masons jumped on it, and there's actually an investment to promote this, even if it was fake, to promote it as real, because what it does is it makes it seem like all of the oaths that are taking during the rituals are legit, and that like you really will get taken out for them. So it's almost like if someone made it seem that way, and Masons weren't involved, which they probably were if it happened, but even if they weren't, it's like, yeah, we can use that. Just the same way that Masons love to claim anyone that makes themselves, like a spectacle. For example, all the 33rd degree astronauts. I feel like it's almost like how the Denver airport leans in and they put up big billboards that say like, currently working on lizard tunnels or something.
Right, which they are. So they got that going for them. But yeah. Was there like an old meme where people would like take a picture of Will Morgan and just like put it over Hiram Abiff in like that sketching where they're stabbing him to death and stuff like that?
I found it, by the way.
Really?
It's for sale for $6. We cannot show a picture of the cover. I'll tell you that much.
Are you serious?
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Really?
I'll post it in the private chat.
But I can't show it. Oh, because there's a picture of a naked lady or something cool.
A few of them.
That's kind of nice. All right, we can just look at it and we can talk about it. Okay, guys, why don't you just pull up whatever you like?
It's a $6 download.
Oh dear!
Oh. Wow, it's like that.
Oh, I see. Oh my. Age consent. You have an age consent button that you have to. Dang. Yeah. I see your problem there. It should be for historical look. I mean, for a while there, they got in trouble. I got in trouble for showing scenes from.
Let me just read a small little blurb from it. It says, the most outrageous reenactment depicts a love triangle between William Randolph Hearst, Marion Davies, and Charlie Chaplin.
That happened. Yeah, you know about that, right? The Cat's Meow. Have you ever seen that movie about it? with
I love that.
Maggie
This is-
Gyllenhaal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
This is actually like
William
the-
Randolph Hearst tried to shoot Ira Berlin, or was that right? Or no? Who was the guy? He tried to shoot Charlie Chaplin, but he accidentally shot the film producer and director. Cat's me.
Yeah, Thomas Ince or Inky.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Ince. Yeah, Ince was shot on the boat. So because like William Randolph Hearst would go out and have alcohol on the boat, and they have these parties with celebrities, but he didn't like to drink much. It's like Tim Pool, and his girlfriend was flirting with Charlie Chaplin a lot, and Charlie Chaplin did, just recently impregnate a teenage girl, and he was like going to be forced to marry her, but he was flirting with what's her name, Marjorie Davis?
That was the look on his face right when he found out that she was pregnant. He looked just like
yeah,
her.
I'm pretty good at this. I just lucky. Like, oh man, she's 16. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe I'm that good. Anyway, but he shot a guy wearing the hat of Charlie Chaplin, which turned out to be Thomas Ince, and so he rushed him off the boat. And then they said that he had a drunken accident to his family, and basically committed suicide or was not
shit.
being
Too bad he
careful.
didn't shoot someone with a mustache of Charlie Chaplin. That probably would have helped out the world at the time a little bit better.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And like some of the movies he made are gone. Obviously, you can't find all of the movies he made, but Triangle, it was a downwards pointed triangle, was his symbol. The triangle plays.
Oh.
Yeah. So and he tried to sell his company and he couldn't do it. All right, but okay, really quickly, Rothschilds.
Secrets get untold. A conspiracy of power hidden behind.
I haven't heard this yet.
We're being together, brought into control.
Very yacht rocky. I like it.
Yeah, right?
Was it Michael?
Sounds like the Mamas and the Papas.
I really wish the Mamas and the Papas had a song about the Rothschilds conspiracy. That would be sweet. So
Mama Cass was working on that before she was killed.
Yeah.
They said they blamed it on a pork chop,
Big
but she was
ham.
working on this hit song about
Big ham.
ham sandwich, yeah.
ham sandwich. I stand.
It wasn't though, right? It was that she was starving herself and she had gastrointestinal problems. So you know what? Just be body positive.
Died in the same bed as Keith Moon.
Really?
I feel like
it was actually Harry Nilsson's flat that both of them stayed at. They were both in England. He was one of the original. What was his gang with Alice Cooper, the
Hollywood Vampires.
Yeah. That was originally with Harry, and so he would be he had this flat that he would have access to. So when he was across the pond, he could do drunken Harry Nilsson things and still have a place to crash. But he would let famous people stay there. So it was, I think, Paul McCartney's birthday party that Keith Moon was at, and he was there. And he was taking a number of things and trying to quit drinking, but he drank, and along with the drugs that he was taking, it died in Harry Nilsson's flat's bed.
Interesting. Keith Moon was punched in the face by Steve McQueen, and the guy I was talking about earlier, James Mazio, was there. They all lived in the same little area, and it was Steve McQueen had all these cars that he couldn't fit on his own driveway, and so he had them out in the street and out by Keith Moon's house. And Keith Moon came out and he was like, "You got to move these cars." And they got an argument ensued, and Steve McQueen ended up punching Keith Moon in the face. There's only one witness, and he told me the story. But no charges were filed or anything like that.
Wow, that's pretty hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so does anyone have thoughts on this idea of like the Morgan affair? Like, really, you think that it's just sort of, because it's a big deal, turning point in the United States, that all of a sudden Freemasonry is looked at as evil at this point, and then the Democrats and the KKK and the Freemasons are racist, and that just seems very strange, right? Because so what happened at that moment? Like something weird definitely happened to American Freemasonry that changed. It's kind of, it seems like it inverted its whole ethic.
Well, European Freemasonry too, but yeah, why
European
just American?
Freemasonry was Freemasonry in Europe was accepting women, but not for about
No way.
30 more
No
years.
way.
No, English Freemasonry started accepting women, I think, in the 1870s, right? So it started in the 19th
Outside of
century.
the Eastern Star.
Right. No, women being
Outside,
members, yeah, actual members of lodges. And then there's all these lodges that were forming, like the Lucis Trust had the Grand Tibetan Lodge, right? So it seems like it's an interesting time in Freemasonry because they had all the potential to take over America then, and like far more than they do now. And then everyone.
And 60 years after the Morgan affair is when Leo Taxil comes out with Les Mysteries, and that's basically what finishes the pollution process worldwide, especially in America, because it takes hold in America, and people still quote this guy's writing today to cite anti-Freemasonic claims. They still cite this guy's book, which was pretty much influenced by the Will Morgan affair.
I don't understand why, if we're saying that like membership, like I guess earlier we were talking about like the Freemasonic membership has tipped compared to what it used to be. Why would that have any ultimate bearing on their degree of influence, like beyond control? Like I don't think at any point any group of people like that has any ultimate control.
There's left money in the coffers ultimately.
Less money in the coffers. Okay, well, I mean, maybe they're getting maybe they have a better source than just like the general public. Maybe they got more going for them than the church does. I don't know. I don't know, actually. I'm not making any claims. I'm just I'm just asking questions here.
It's a fair point. If you just focus on the percent that donates the most, the whales, right? Maybe at some point if the higher up Freemasons were like, let's just focus on the whales and screw the regular guy.
Third party, dude. The first third party. It's crazy. All right. Well, how about baptism of William Morgan's wife? I knew that William Morgan's wife, the affair, Joseph Smith married Lucinda Pendleton Morgan.
This is wild. Like, to me, that this is such an interesting it's not a synchronicity. That, like,
I mean, I guess
this
it is
a source code. Like, this is a peek behind the curtain at the Wizard, in my opinion.
I mean, that's pretty crazy that Joseph Smith ended up married to the wife of William Morgan, the disappeared anti-Freemason.
How do you think she felt about Freemasonry? He got 2 of her husbands killed.
How do you feel about it? What do you guys think? What do you think she felt? That's crazy. That is some crazy stuff, dude. Listen, Lucinda Pendleton Morgan Harris. Is it in there somewhere? Pendleton Morgan Harris. Anybody? I mean, because like that ties everything together. No.
I was
downstairs getting a snack.
I can't speak on it. I mean,
William Morgan was disappeared, people say, by the Freemasons. Right. Joseph Smith dies right after he promises to keep secrets for the Freemasons, not saying that it was them. William Morgan's wife ends up married to Joseph Smith and baptized into the faith and everything.
That's
like that.
pretty. I never heard this before. That's crazy. That's why I don't have anything to say to it. This is amazing, though. Yeah, thank you. It's weird because it's kind of reminding me of this thing with Andre Previn. So like Andre Previn did music for Rosemary's Baby, Valley of the Dolls, and then Dory Previn, his wife, did a song about molestation. Like it seems like that song "Me and Daddy in the Attic," which apparently was what was used by Mia Farrow in the accusation, which apparently didn't make any sense for what their attic was or whatever. But it's got "Me and Daddy in the Attic," and then Suk Yin Lee, Mia Farrow. So the adopted daughter, Mia Farrow and Andre Previn's adopted daughter, she married Woody Allen. So it's just like, it gets weird, man, when you're like, wait, like, because it's one thing, like, if people are like, when they go back in time and they look at examples of where like, oh, this person knew this person. It's like, well, yeah, dude, everybody who had money knew each other. Like, it's been that way. It's like that, it's just the aristocrat phenomenon. But in certain cases, you're like, this isn't that they just knew each other. It's like they're all married to each other.
Yeah, man. The second, it's also his second plural wife. So like, I think they consider his first one to be Fanny Alger, which is the girl that he met. I think the way that they do it is that. So
no offense to Joseph Smith, but he is not picking them, man. Not picking them.
Well, Yeah, there's a lot of questions about that, whether or not, Joseph Smith was really a polygamist. Jacob Isbell, he's got a lot of good evidence. There's a lot of great evidence that is made up after
10 zeros don't equal a 10.
All the women he married, he didn't have a single kid with any of them. There's Fanny Alger was 16, if that really happened, although the papers say scrape, not affair, and then the word's been changed. But the other ones, they're like 48. I think William Morgan's wife is like 12 years older than Joseph Smith. And so, yeah, this idea that they're trying to prove that Joseph Smith was a polygamist, I'm really interested more and more in doing this debate with Jacob Hansen on this subject, because I think you can prove that what Joseph Smith was doing is not the same polygamy as Brigham Young, and that's enough. That's he basically isn't a polygamist. He's something else. He's trying, and their excuse is he's trying really hard to avoid it because he doesn't want to be. He's so holy, he doesn't want to be a polygamist. So he's just trying to make excuses to have like spiritual marriages or something like that, which is like it's vaguely plausible, but the idea also that a bunch of guys who did this afterwards, because you read wife number 19, which is the 19th wife of Brigham Young. Brigham Young, the second prophet, he's gotten 50, 60 wives or teenagers and everything else. Wife number 19 doesn't like it, leaves the church, divorces, and talks about the conditions of the thing. And it's horrible. It's definitely horrible, right? There's no question that it's horrible. There probably are people that are happy in other circumstances, but that was horrible. And so that's definitely not what Joseph Smith was doing, because he's got a few women that he might have had an affair with at some point without having kids, and maybe had these secret ceremonies. It just doesn't feel the same.
I mean, you're judging these women based on these old photos that they had to sit still for. Did you see them from behind? I mean, come on.
And I'd also no, it's fair, but this also this idea that that these marriages were spiritual, right? Like that seems, because it's funny that right now there's an argument in the world with religion about gay marriage, because I feel like gay marriage is probably far more legitimate, I hate to say it, than this vague relationship that they're saying Joseph might have had an affair and therefore we have a temple ceiling for it later. It's that's less of a real marriage, right? I don't know.
I guess, yeah.
Kill your idols, It's like
kill your idols.
You see
Jacksonian democracy.
Yeah.
Have you seen that guy? Not recently, not after what I did to him. Are you kidding? James K. Polk is the most successful president in United States history and probably a time traveler. He won in 1844, and that was the year that Joseph Smith ran for president. I can't help but wonder what it would have been like if the anti-Masons or the Masons made different deals, because very easily I could see Polk not being the president, and how different America would be, because we would have not control over Mexico. Mexico's authority probably would have been stronger, unless we didn't want to, but we could have made an alliance with it. This is all what ifs though, right? So it's kind of silly. But Polk it's weird when you look at it that he's the most successful president in U.S. history, because he's got a 4-year term and he conquers and succeeds at all these very important political movements, and he's a Jacksonian Democrat, and he's just paving the way for what happens after this, the Civil War, because eventually the country can't even handle with the federalism that's being pushed and impressed upon it in this rapid expansion. So everything, like the Civil War, racism, the civil rights movement taking an extra century, I feel like it all actually comes down to this election into Polk. Is that just crazy? Is it a butterfly that I see in the effects?
So are we talking about the War of Northern Aggression?
That's I said that the War of Northern Aggression wouldn't have happened,
right?
Because Polk is the reason that happened. Like Jacksonian Democrats and federalism forced Alabama, Louisiana, South Carolina into a state where they were not allowed to have their own economies. Like they started to usurp their banks, to control their minting and their presses, and to say that their dollar that they were printing was illegitimate when the actual reserves that they had weren't the same in the North, and so they were forcing the South to pay for Northern debt, like a financial false currency debt, like we do now.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
I'm not really that educated on any of that. Can't really
Fair
say.
enough. Fair enough.
I don't know
Okay,
too much
how
about Polk. I know about Buchanan, but I didn't really know all that about Polk, so all I could say is wow.
Yeah, Polk's weird.
Why do you say that you think he was a time traveler?
I just feel like because that period in time defines so much in history.
Uh-huh.
Like that moment in time, it's like he's such a perfect Kantian discerned movement in so many ways. So many things happened. The expansion into the Western Territory after Jackson, the mapping from Lewis and Clark, everything is coming to Polk.
Right. Napoleon was probably a time traveler too, but that didn't stop Waterloo from happening. That was destiny. It's nothing no way around it.
I feel like time travelers probably have like time police that make them do things. It's like, haven't you seen Bruce Willis in 12 Monkeys? In the news, this group won, what was it? $1 million, $700,000, because there was a prize to use AI to resurrect this ancient library from the ashes of a volcano, which had burnt most of it, and try to see what they could get out of the scrolls. And finally somebody did it. It took about 7 months or something like that, 10 months. And now they have, the entire collection, and they can infer a lot of the missing parts as well, because they have other things that are connected to that. So pretty sweet. 95% of the comments sent to the code owners were accepted without discussion. Looks like it's perfect.
What's it about? What's the document?
There's a lot. There's like thousands of documents, and I guess they've got all of the records of their Herculaneum, which was their library at Mount Vesuvius.
Okay. So there's got to be some good stuff in there.
Probably some pretty cool stuff.
As soon as this all comes out, is the Catholic Church just going to like confiscate it and keep it in the crazy lockdown library?
It's right there.
Situation?
It's on the internet already. It's just got to translate it, right?
I think you can download the translation. Like they have all the data now. The AI was able to clean see, everything is
open.
The
secret to life was in there. It would already be on Twitter, right? It's like somebody read this already.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'm telling you about it, and I haven't even read it yet. So
okay.
So it's a lot. Well, yeah, it's pretty.
This isn't like another Epstein client list that nobody read before they.
This is why I don't do the news. All right, I haven't read it yet. I don't know what to say about it. I was like trying to relate.
You can make a living doing that. Let's read. All right, let's read.
What do they call them? History. Anchor just makes a ship go kind of in a circle, right? So they don't actually go anywhere. Isn't that the purpose of an anchor? I'm sorry, I'm just.
Yeah. I think an anchorage is where you drop anchor.
Right. I just don't know why they're called anchor men and anchor women.
Anchor men.
Yeah.
Broadcasting and broads and anchor.
The anchor that they're like the they're the foundation. Who knows?
Yeah, but they just keep the boat at a standstill. I don't know. I'm just saying.
All right. This is how they did this, though. I didn't really elaborate. Like these scrolls are burnt. No, this is a rolled up scroll, and then so they.
That's a ding dong.
They're able to read the scroll without breaking it apart because it's burnt, right? So they're scanning the whole thing. And they're getting everything they can out of it without destroying the scroll, which is like.
Isn't this the crazy thing with like the Dead Sea Scrolls, that they were like portions of the Dead Sea Scrolls were like they found hanging in a cave, and then like they've been used for like kindling for people who were like cold in the cave or some shit.
Yeah, right. That story is pretty wild. Yeah, that's it's a tough one because there's so much in there that has led to so I don't know. It's
I highly doubt it was just used for kindling. I feel like they're like, no, tear that book out. We don't want the Gospel of Thomas. We don't want the Gospel of Nicodemus. We don't want the Apocalypse of Adam. A lot of
not Judas. Judas is one of the best ones.
What about all the stuff with Enoch? All that stuff?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the Enochian alphabet again. Yeah.
Is that worth a human life? If there was someone like holding it and they were like, I have to either burn this or I will die.
I just watched our Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Which one? Yeah, the third one?
I just saw the first one. I've never actually watched them before, and I started playing the video game. Yeah, that's right.
Dude, super up your alley. You like Star Fox, man.
I love Rocket Raccoon, actually. I think I get Rocket Raccoon. Rocket Raccoon reminds me of Sean, Parmesan Sean, who's the programmer from the Open Network Foundation that we've worked with on the show a couple times. He's got like this like really Brooklyn accent. It's great. But Rocket Raccoon's based on the song Rocky Raccoon. If you read the two Incredible Hulk 273, not 237. He's got an issue where Rocket Raccoon finds Gideon's Bible.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
and
there
it's
you go.
got like all the records of everybody. It's like all the prison records or something, like all the data and everything is in the Gideon's Bible.
I actually like the third one more than the first. Just saying.
But the reason I thought of it was because of the response to your question, which is that slave of Joaquin Phoenix. And then they open the portal thing and then she grabs it and she's like, I will no longer be your slave. And she like explodes. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I think they would. To answer your question.
Oh my god.
Okay. Was there more to that question, or no? That was basically it.
What about Kerry Mullis, Will Morgan? He just says Kerry Mullis. What about him? PCR, inventor PCR. I don't. Okay, I'm putting it out there. Maybe he'll return it by the time.
Kerry Mullis VCR. Am I supposed to look that up? Is that what you want?
PCR, not VCR.
Oh, PCR. Oh, like the polymer.
Yeah. You know this guy. Yeah. I don't know. I was just curious why in the comments Will Morgan just said Kerry Mullis. Maybe I'm missing something.
Are we even allowed to say this guy's name out loud on YouTube?
Oh yeah, you're right. That might actually be a problem. It's true. You don't even. Yeah.
I'm just gonna show a couple cool guys. Really.
I thought you said Kerry Mollusk.
Mollusk.
I had that guy as my history teacher in high school.
No, Kerry Mullis is great, and I recommend his book. I haven't read the whole thing; I've only read small parts of it. But he's cool scientist guy. Got the Nobel Prize for inventing the PCR test, and then had a lot of complaints about the way that PCR tests were being used during the AIDS epidemic. And he died, I think, in late 2019. You can see there where it gets the date.
Did he?
But yeah, because had he
that's a bummer.
Yeah. So had he been around in 2020, he would have made a serious ruckus. So,
oh my god!
Look how they try to smear him in this second paragraph right here of his biography. It's
of course they
like
do.
A total G.
Yeah. No, he
make him sound like the man. He had supposed to be a smear.
He had very intelligent.
Downplayed humans' role in climate change. I'm done. This guy's an asshole.
Dude.
Well, you got to talk about the vapor canopy, and water vapor from the ocean. Okay, fine. There was former director of the FBI Ted Gunderson speaks out about the Illuminati. The Illuminati was founded May 1st, 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. The basic philosophy of the Illuminati is that superhuman beings with super intelligence have the right to rule those that are less gifted. It's like the Discordia and Slack, right? Because the masses don't know what's best for them. The word Illuminati is derived from Lucifer and means holder of light. The main objective of the Illuminati is to create a one world government. Illuminati, the New World Order. Is this still the quote? No, that's the quote. So this was apparently.
In the quote he said #NWO.
Yeah, well, no, but there is a real video here. There really is. This is the So, what's the deal? What do you guys think about like this Illuminati stuff? Yeah,
I think based on the writings of the quote unquote actual Illuminati, if we're talking Bavarian Illuminati, they were atheists at the core, and they actually looked down upon anyone that was
into like
overly
hermetics
religious.
or
and I think some of their rituals.
I think they're theists.
Well, the Adam Weishaupt in particular was a staunch atheist, and I think I remember reading a bunch of that the degrees and the higher levels, they would basically make you do all sorts of heretical and things that normal people would probably be against if it were like up to religion. So it was
like spitting on the cross is a ritual.
A lot of like the
kissing anuses.
That was just for you.
They would cheat. They would actually kiss right above the anus. That was the secret. And then the people who actually kissed the anus, they were kicked out. They were like, get out of it.
I'm sorry for soloing on Thomas for that.
I'm sorry. I just want to say, Will Morgan responded with Kerry Mullis met a glowing green raccoon in the last chapter of his book. The chapter name was No Room for Aliens or something similar. And he says, true story, Google Kerry Mullis and raccoon.
Wow.
Kerry Mullis new rocket raccoon.
All right, I'll try to get through the other two movies before Will's on next week so I know what's going on. Adam Weishaupt wasn't an atheist, I'll argue. He was a Spinozan. He believed come on. Can
Spinoza,
I spell it?
Yeah, right.
Spinoza wasn't an atheist. People really don't understand this. He was you could say, a detheist. He was trying not to be as reductionist about what theism is. he was aware that God is not.
You mean
of man.
theism, the school of philosophy, or theism just as a antonym to atheism? Or you mean theism specifically?
So this idea of there being a God, right? The idea that there being a God could be more nuanced.
But theism is the idea that God is in everything. Like theism is like almost like Gnosticism, where like God is in like
principle where there's a big sky daddy that rules everything.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. No. That's not what theism means, though. Theism is a specific school of thought that means that God is in everything. It's not just the opposite of atheism. So that's why I want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing.
Oh yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah. Defined in the theism is broadly defined as the belief in the existence of at least one deity. Is that not what you mean?
The problem when we talk about atheism, though.
Yeah, what is it that you're? Which word are you meaning? Sorry, I just maybe is there another theism?
Maybe it is deism. I'm thinking of then. Click on deism.
Deism, the philosophical position in rationalistic theology that generally rejects revelation.
Yeah, this is what I was. Sorry, so I had it mixed up. Yeah, this is what I was trying to. Never mind. Then.
Understandable.
Yeah, sorry. But what were you saying, David?
But that's what I thought. My top was.
Just a standard point. Like before I ever have, like I used to live with a housemate who was just like super into Dawkins. I think I've talked about him before or whatever, but it's like you get into these debates around atheism, and I'm like, I've come across two radically different types of atheists. I come across the atheists who are like, I don't know, define your terms, what are we even talking about? And then those are the atheists that I like to talk to, because then you actually have somewhere you can go with it. Then there's a type of atheist that's already has a preconceived notion about what God is, that they project and then continue to debate even with themselves with, and they get those types of atheists tend to feel almost like fanatical, like if you're talking to somebody who was very religious, where you're like, there is no God, and you're like, wait, what are we even talking about here? Do you not believe in energy? Well, like, define your terms, dude. So
I mean I think that's actually to your point, Seth, about deism versus theism, because this idea that there is a God, that doesn't necessarily mean that God is a single parent who writes books, who looks like you. Not to say that you're not in God's image, but we have this inversion where we're seeing everything through ourselves, and so we're like, well, God's fingers must be big.
The reason some people conflate deism with atheism is because deism lacks a conscious God, like a thinker and a mover. It's just that God is the construct of everything that just does its thing. So it's like you're not answerable to a being that's judging you, but as a reflection, as a result of natural law, the way that you behave will or will not be in tune with your vibration, and you're going to get the result that's a result of that. So it's so there is no daddy, the
whole thing in a personality. The whole thing has daddy vibes and mommy vibes. It's you could look at it. You could look at it how you want to look at it, but it's
it's like a more feminine. It's like nature itself is God, so it's more of like a feminine. I guess
if you wanted to look at it, I'd say it's Allah is in Spanish, El Ella, right, which is he and she. So there's this idea of love. I think this idea of this duality. I mean, it's not duality of good and evil, though. It's duality of feminine and masculine in the sense of magnets. This is positive and negative.
Right. That's polarity, not duality. So there we go.
Polarity. I think what David was trying to say is that atheism specifically refers to like a rejection of the Abrahamic God in most people's minds, where it's like when people can say they're an atheist, and it's like, what do you mean? Do you think there's like no, no vibration?
Right now we're talking in realms, we're talking 200 years of context, but I guess fair point, Andreas, that maybe he was Spinozan and not atheist, but in the context,
actually, fair point, Seth.
In the relative context
I
of
could just be wrong,
like the Jesuits immediately losing power, and with Weishaupt being in the very middle of that, in fact, taking over from the Jesuits and like starting this whole new sort of culture that hadn't existed for hundreds of years. I'd argue in that relative context, he's atheist more than any other,
because
he's anti-Catholic Roman Church for sure.
So, you have to understand what was going on. Like the Dutch, which were controlled by the Spanish, who'd been under the rule of the Arabs, had this different look at God. They had this Allah is not a personal God in the sense that Allah is not a humanistic God, but Allah is a personal God in the sense that there are attributes to nature and to the archons, and there are demons. People seem to be okay with understanding that. But why don't they understand there's angels, right? There's mechanisms to the way things are functioning, which are broader. Like if you think of yourself having fingers, imagine a super computer that has billions of people as their fingers. And that's only because we're dealing with computers. If we advance more, maybe we can start to discuss what God is more. So they focused on math, they focused on science, and Spinoza was aware of this. So he's saying, okay, let's look at the unmoved mover, like St. Thomas Aquinas is talking about, as physics, though, because we have movements. And so sin and karma, like this idea that there's negative effects to negative actions, there's positive effects to positive actions, but good intentions pave the road to hell. So you need to understand the nuances. Like if you try to pick a butterfly out of the mud, you're going to pull its wings off. So it's not as easy as just saying, oh, I understand consequences, I understand karma. Nobody does. Don't even lie to yourself. This is why physics machines and these giant supercomputers are so valuable. The real reason is because they want to be able to understand the consequences of everything.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which you don't need to. You just need to behave correctly, and you get a good result. But I mean, this is another way to try to do everything except for just behaving correctly. So,
I think everyone would agree that that's a fact. I think you don't really need to understand it. The more you understand it, the more wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, I always come back to Jesus said to pursue the peace that transcends understanding. He didn't say to pursue the understanding. It's you pursue the peace that transcends it. I'm not like I live my life that way either. I'm super curious. I try to research everything, as if the answer is going to be in the data, but the answer isn't in the data. The answer is in the freedom from the desire for the data. And then you're in, you're in vibrational alignment
and like things. Connecting with people and your humanity and the emotional capacity to connect. And
it's sort of like Celestine prophecy, like version of the world. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Sure.
Celestine prophecy.
I read that when I was like 16 or something.
Yeah. So it's kind of like an adult novel version of like Manly P. Hall. But no, it's really good and has a lot of proprietary ideas too. But yeah, I mean, the general thrust of it is that there's a, even atheists have this, like Stefan Molyneux wrote his whole a theory of universally preferred behavior, instead of like a God or like a 10 commandments, that there's just universally preferred behavior. And that's like the scientific root of morality, so, excusing the need for anything supernatural to explain morality.
Right. So like it's weird to paraphrase like Nietzsche, but it wasn't kind of the idea of beyond good and evil, that we have these concepts of good and evil, and the reality of good and evil transcends that, in the same way that he might make a statement about God, and he's speaking to the God of the church, and like it's like, I never hated the one true God, but the God of the people I hated. There's that kind of these kind of distinctions that exist there. So it's like people take it that it's like, oh, there's no good and evil, and he's kind of like, no, the reality, the polarity or whatever of good and evil transcends the duality which we're projecting on top of that. So he had kind of a similar kind of thing as like what Jim Morrison had with his story about when he was driving through the desert at dawn with his family and grandparents. It's symbolic, where they see the dead Indians on the highway, and then one of them leaps into his soul. It's kind of like his take on the Nietzschean idea that Nietzsche claims, like as the basis for a lot of his philosophy, that he watched in a lightning storm his neighbor kill a lamb. I believe it was a lamb for his neighbor's son, and he saw that there was no anger or aggression or anything in what he was doing. It was just pure necessity and circumstance of what you do to survive. And so there's this kind of like different view, because he was being raised in a very religious context, but then he also was, even as a child, kind of having this insight into like looking at it as more of like a plain picture, and considering that the way our knowledge works is that like to actually understand something is transcendent of the knowledge, which then relates to what is original sin really, other than our ability to compartmentalize, like, which is good and bad at the same time, right? That's kind of the joke of it, to know good and evil.
Right. Yeah.
Wait, did you want to finish your thought? Because like that's gonna play.
What's happening?
I'm done with Box Saga.
Seth's thought. Seth, finish your thought. What were you saying?
Oh, shoot. Well, it was about Nietzsche, right? I was just going to add that, I agree with what David is saying, and Nietzsche being the God is dead guy, but he's, I think all these smart people are deists basically, because he still believed in like an ordering, law of the material world that's important to behave a certain way, even though he believed that God was dead, the capital G God that mankind had created in the abscess of that knowledge. That's it.
Totally.
Based. All right.
Great handgun.
Yeah, the video's getting good.
Do you make this video, Xirtus?
Oh, for sure.
It's sick, dude. Trippy. So trippy. I wish I took mushrooms for that.
All right, I'm gonna need a mascara. Yeah. I think we pretty much did. Is anything you guys want me to cover before I show them where they can get some of your content?
You guys seen Beau is Afraid?
Oh, I got one more thing. I thought, okay, so my daughter, this is not mine. Someone posted this in Atheism Reddit. So my daughter has watched VeggieTales on Netflix. I didn't know until she started talking about the gods of the sky and how he made us and protects us. My mistake for not monitoring her viewing more closely. When questioned about it, she said that she believes the VeggieTales tells real stories, but other shows like My Little Pony is make-believe. Any suggestions on ways to approach this? Satan, when he's thwarted by an animated
The My Little Pony stories are also true.
Yeah, that's the thing I was gonna. That's exactly right. But 7 years
she's
ago,
smart enough to, like, you know, she's a mystery school initiate already. You know, that's an amazing question.
Yeah, except that she doesn't believe in My Little Pony, and
God, that sucks.
You guys seen Beau is Afraid?
Yes.
Beau is Afraid. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say this is so stupid, but like I was just like I've always been kind of like for years I've been more and more over the Academy Awards, you know, and there's all this bullshit. People are like, oh, Barbie didn't get nominated for enough or whatever. It's sexist. But I was just like, dude, Beau is Afraid. This guy, Ari Aster and Robert Eggers, these guys produce some of the best goddamn movies, and they are so snubbed by that whole scene. I'm just like, I just want to put it out there that this to me was the best movie of the year. And it didn't get jack shit at the Oscars for nominations, and so they can suck it. But yeah,
I actually watched this because I saw you say that. So I did watch this on your recommendation. I found it extremely disturbing, but very artfully made. But extremely disturbing.
They're well said. Yeah, totally.
Good. I'll make it after you watch this for a palate cleanser. Everybody will love this movie. Marcel the shell wearing shoes. It's like a live action with a little claymation shell guy. That's like, it's just genius. The script, like the shell.
What's it called? Marcel the shell
who wears shoes. Yeah. So watch that after you watch Beau is Afraid, because Beau is Afraid is this unsettling movie, upsetting and unsettling.
Yeah, it's psychoanalytic, and I love psychoanalytic movies. I'm a huge Kubrick fan, you know, and it's like it feels like it's
very
on
like
trajectory of.
Yeah. Did you guys watch? Did you guys watch Gudetama? Gudetama, about the little like runny egg. Have you seen that show?
No, I know what it is, but I didn't know it was a show. I thought it was just like a meme.
So on Netflix, there's a Japanese show called Gudetama, and it's like they're in a sushi restaurant, and they realize that they got to get out of there. Is basically the deal, and so they escape. And there's like a season of this show, and it's amazing. Wow. I learned a lot about Japan. about
I don't have
Egg,
Netflix, so
the Yakuza,
yeah.
myself. It's a great show. I really recommend it. Gudetama. Yeah, you can just, I'm sure you can find it online.
Got some good recommendations, man. I haven't seen
But,
that one.
But enough about all that nonsense. If you guys like pterodactyls, then you'll love Zach because he's got a channel called Pterodactyl 11. He's got 11 pterodactyls.
Yeah, just the ones or the L's. It's I don't really record anything, and so I'll just go on live from time to time.
Are you making like
And
video
so-
art? Is this like?
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. I've been doing this thing called I've been calling it VHS roulette.
Oh, sweet.
So I got a bunch of home taped VHS stuff, and I'm using this software called Synesthesia.
Sweet.
Along with my synth and Eurorack setup, and it's all experimental, but I don't really record a lot of it. So if you want to add me on there, you see it pop up. It's stuff that like you'll only see once, and then a lot of it's just like been gone. But
way to make Twitch
the
seem
VHS,
relevant. Yeah, I'll watch it.
the VHS stuff, it's a tape of this. I just got this at the thrift store the other day. This balloon ball bouncing workout one. It's all playing live, but I'll take the audio from it and use the. I'll use, for example. I've got this thing that'll allow me to change the
pitch in real time. So like
I'm manipulating the VHS audio.
Zach, your fucking prank calls, man. You gotta share those on this. Next time you come on here, have the fucking prank call shit ready. Would you do that to the hotel one where you go? Oh,
yeah.
This reminds me of like the Sears lingerie section that we used to have before pornography.
Ooh,
and I'm all right with that. This is cool.
I saw you post about that just recently, Andreas, and you brought back some memories that I haven't thought of since they happened.
I think actually I don't really promote pornography, but I promote lace. I think you could put lace over. Pretty cool. What was the other video I looked at that was cool? It's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to me. Yeah, guys, you're gonna like to watch. If you like to watch video, static and like nostalgic art, like this is actually
yeah, it's all
sweet.
a lot of nostalgia porn. This is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Oh my god, dude. You had the Greg Braden Awakening to Zero Point thing you were fucking
I did
with
have
in there.
that.
I watched that whole thing when I was
because I was like, man, I found the craziest video. It's this dude talking and you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I owned it. I had it on VHS. It was 2 cassettes. Yeah,
I felt very deflated, but also just like, wow. That's also just one.
Yeah, I've been really excited because I like non-linear video projection jamming, and so I'm gonna probably start using I've been always wanting to do this. Use AI generated cartoons, right? Like I'll have those be the clips I'm using. So
yeah, I've just been like getting stuff off of like I have the synesthesia, and I'm overlaying stuff with that is a little bit more curated, but it's a random component with VHS because I literally don't know like if it's somebody's home recorded tape. I don't watch them beforehand, so I could be streaming like it could be like a bad Black Mirror episode.
Been there.
It looks like a home tape, but it's
you might find a snuff film.
That's
what I thought.
Very video drum, dude.
That's what you can hope for when you tune into my channel. That you might, you never know.
You might get video dromed. A hand may come out of your screen. Be prepared.
Pterodactyl 11. All right, so then you're gonna want to go to Paranoid American, and you want to grab yourself of the last one. Is this the single? No, there's 3 left. Okay, cool.
I got a new one too. I got a new one today.
Oh yeah,
it's paranoidsummer.com. I promise there's nothing crazy that'll pop up.
Paranoid Summer.
Paranoid. So that's paranoidsummer.com. This is the summer catalog. 4 brand new series, all issue 1s. And there'll be a place where you can sign up and get all 4 of them for a nice little bundle. But we've got Mold, which is about a huge intergalactic network of mycelium that are fighting against an intergalactic reptilian army.
Mom, Dad, get your kids these comic books.
And this is through the lens of a tortured middle school lunch lady. That's one of the coolest books, Mold. We got Rising from the Ashes. We got Black Mass Pizza, about an evil sorcerer that's trying to take over the Porcelain Club, which is Harvard's version of Skull and Bones, essentially, by giving them we'll call them Black Mass Pizzas. Exactly what it sounds like, if you know what that means. And then Lee's Demon on the bottom right Lee Harvey Oswald actually trying to save JFK's life with his mentor Papa Legba, who stands at the crossroads of life and death in the Vodone.
So again, mom and dad, yeah, these are historical, they're educational, they're positive, they're optimistic, and they're things that kids, boys especially, I think, that get into conspiracies. Like if you want to get them reading these, you can get them reading these actually rather young. So
and I'm announcing this now. I wasn't supposed to say this until later, but this technology that they use to make baby Einstein tapes have been fused into the pages of these comics. So if you actually purchase these and just place them on your pregnant wife's belly, or if you yourself have just transitioned and you were pregnant, you can put this on your belly, and almost through this patented osmosis process, you can confer this knowledge very quickly and easily.
Oh wow! Wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald a Discordian, or what? He was connected to the founder of Discordianism, okay. Thornley.
I meant to say this earlier because Lee Harvey Oswald. It made me think of John Wilkes Booth, another three-name, famous
they always
assassin.
Do it so the John Books of this world don't have to deal with it.
Isn't it so weird that John Wilkes Booth was basically like the Brad Pitt of his time? He was a famous actor, so it's like the equivalent of like. I don't know, like Owen Wilson.
I know, and he shot a black guy. It's so messed up. It's like one of the earliest hate crimes I can think of. Nobody. Okay.
What?
Abraham Lincoln was a black man?
No, you don't think so? I don't know. Could be.
Netflix,
bro. It'll happen. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I saw somebody posting the other day that you could see from those old portraits that he was wearing a mask. Is that what we're talking about? Or you?
If Abraham Lincoln being black helps fix this country, then I say he's black.
So mote it be. Yeah, I'm ready for it. Okay, so Paranoid American Summer Catalog. Notify me at launch. Go on to Kickstarter. Click on that. It's free. Then you get notified when this thing is created. He gets like 100 people. He'll release it. I think it's actually
the other ones are coming. I promise. We were gonna originally launch Chosen One, but we pushed it back a little bit. So I'm contemplating launching NASA next.
All right. Okay. That sounds fun. I want to do like a Mick Moon. I want to let me help you help me. We'll put some Mick Moon into that. And everybody, Frazzle Drip, teach your kids about Hillary Clinton and adrenochrome the easiest way possible with Frazzle Drip. Yeah. That's a great one. All right. So the syncbook.com. If you go to the syncbook.com, you can click on videos. You can go down to the picture of Judy Garland. You can find your way to the Syncflix, which are all these amazing films synchronized with amazing albums by David Plate. You can also find on David Charles Plate MK Ultrasound on Twitter. If you look for MK Ultrasound, he's the most popular one, but 723, and click on highlights. There it is. Boom. Here's E.T. with Poltergeist, and then Mr. Beast, Hawk, and the Howling sink to the top. The most recent one was Jodorowsky's Santa Sangre paired with the Doors album.
Oh yeah,
nice.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You always do such a good job with this now, Andreas. I'm just like I just got plugged. Thank you.
Bro, you just got plugged. Sounds like something Ashton Kutcher would say. And yeah, you also have some apophenia things that you put up there, right? What was that?
This is all apophenia because Joe Alexander got my computer that got this all rolling. Yeah, so he basically wanted me to do a sequel for Back to the Future Predicts 9/11, and I produced a 7.5 hour long sequel called Sorry Cassandra, I Misunderstood Everything Predicts 9/11, which is more of a video collage style that's meant to kind of like encourage people to have insights rather than trying to explain everything for them. It kind of works as kind of a plain picture kind of sync film. And so are you Charlie Chaplin now, Zach? What's going on? What am I looking at?
Oh, I got this the other day. Oh yeah, this back part's not tucked.
Dude, I know a lodge member who looks just like that. That's blowing my mind.
I got a little help on Temu from Andreas.
Oh, that's right. I hate that this happened because Temu is the ultimate like casino mafia conspiracy out of the China's Communist Party. But
it worked out. I
look at you.
6 free gifts.
Yeah, you look great. I didn't get mine, but I'm glad you got yours.
maybe this is Art Bell.
Yeah, I think that you could do a show this way. You might have to dub it later though, but it looks good. Yeah. Honestly, I like it. Something about it. It's growing on me. If you type in "Sorry Cassandra, I Misunderstood," you'll find it. Here it is right here. Sorry, Cassandra, Misunderstood. Nope.
That's just a clip from it. But if you go to the website, the SyncBook website, it's actually there towards the bottom. So yeah.
Let's go down here.
Well, I mean, on my page. Oh, it's there too. Actually, it's on that page as well. It's on both pages. But yeah,
There it
see,
is, right there.
that's-
Predicts 9/11. If you want to get like super deep and you haven't done it yet, make sure you watch this documentary. It's pretty impressive. Flashy clothes, cool looking supplies. Get yourself some Stay Cool merchandise from VBDC, and check out his awesome sticker collection as well. And look at that one. I like this one actually.
I did not know this store was still up.
That's what you get. I know. I knew you were gonna be like, don't
you got my old plug link saved. I don't even have that. I don't even advertise that store anymore, so I don't even know if it's still working.
Dude, after he swore to
my
never do
old name,
hamster
Jesus.
style again. Yeah. Well, go to VBDC Linktree. If you go to Linktree.
Yeah, I do have a
/VBDC,
new
you can
song
find-
out. It's the the theme song for Rob Van Dam's podcast, One of a Kind podcast, my boy RVD. So this is a song I did for him, and it is you can hear it on his One of a Kind podcast, which airs every Monday, or you can go listen to it on Spotify or buy it on Apple iTunes, wherever you listen to music. Out
Right.
now,
We're gonna be working on some. We're gonna work on something special for Rod Van Dam. That's all I'm saying. It's gonna be really interesting. Some good stuff in the works.
That'd be cool.
So
that's out right now.
And then Ryan is Source. Make sure you listen to VBDC's new track. Subscribe to him on YouTube as well, because that's a great way to get him
music
promoted.
videos. And there is an album coming this spring or summer with music videos and stuff. So
sweet.
Stay tuned.
Go to tartarynova.com. Join the Discord and check out xchurch.us. I just made this new website. It's pretty sweet. Xchurch.us. It's not loading, but that's probably even more. Yeah, that's even more of a surprise. Good for you. Okay, how you guys doing? We're good.
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you for whoever brought up Man versus Bee. I binged that after.
Oh yeah, that was me.
Oh my god, I loved it, man. It was
the reason
to binge.
I brought that up because freaking Mike Judge recommended it. So I think it was maybe him on Joe Rogan or something. No, he was being interviewed and he just said, he was like, I recommend the show, and I was like,
great,
I like Mr. Bean.
It's weird because all the episodes are like 7 minutes or something. They're like really short.
They're short, yeah.
Someone said that Mr. Bean's a Freemason and a Mormon, and I can't unsee it. So there's that. All right, ciao.